Hi, everybody. Welcome. I'm Aurora, just checking my sound settings here. There we go. Good. And this class is Lessons for Full Spectrum Humans. Today is Level 1, Lesson 10. It's all about the flower of life and flying rainbow lasagna. Now, we have already done, because of the way that I have the curriculum structured and the strange ways that things intermesh in this scheduling, we've already done the advanced teaching on the Merkaba because the way I used to do class was one measly little hour of level one, and then on the same day, one measly little hour of level two. And I used to make sure that the stuff about level one Merkaba came first, then level two Merkaba came second. But everything goes kablooey because now I spend like 4 hours on one level and I switch between level one and level two. So do not be concerned. And I make it all make sense no matter where we are in the semester. Welcome to any new students who might just be tuning in and finding my work. It's always a good time to tune in. The semesters are always ongoing. So this one is 2025.2 because we already finished 2025, the regular one that started actually at the end of last year. And this one will come to completion, and then I will start a new one. So wherever we are in the teaching cycle, just pick up where you can. And you can also start by filling in the blanks with your homework, which are the recorded whiteboard lessons. Each one of these lectures, or if you're catching these lectures on YouTube, has a whiteboard or like a two-part whiteboard that is associated with it, where you will find all of the wonderful details laid out in a very complementary way. My teaching style here in class is informal, and I'm always going to break with my curriculum, and I'm going to relate things to what we're presently experiencing in our life. But the original information stands. It's a very good record and a very from a very pure time, a time of pure vision before a lot of things have come to cloud our individual and collective vision. So it's very, very good to tune into those whiteboards. And if I ever have issue with anything that I did 10 years ago or the way that I presented that information, I will always update it in class. Pardon me. Okay, good. So today is the earlier level stuff about Flying Rainbow Lasagna and the Merkaba, or the star tetrahedron. But this is always in style. And what I'm really going to do is expand upon the foundation of what I started with just a couple of weeks ago in this semester, talking about the similarities, the common ground between Flying Rainbow Lasagna and the Merkaba, because these are both two forms of interdimensional conveyance. I can say vehicle, but not a clank metal vehicle, like a force field that can convey you from one reality structure to another reality structure. But they are unique in what they are and what they do. And I feel that they are very complementary. So you don't only have to do one or the other or be on one team, like Team Merkaba or Team Flying Rainbow Lasagna. These are very, very complementary. The Merkaba, or the star tetrahedron shape, predates the Flying Rainbow Lasagna. Merkaba has been in existence for a very, very long amount of time. It goes all the way to the antediluvian world that we know as Atlantis. Sometimes I call it ancient concurrent. It is really another shell of reality. That's why if you were thinking of it from linear language, you would have to go back millennia, but you didn't get here by regular linear time. You got here through interdimensional consciousness transportation. So you have to start to think like a butterfly and not like a caterpillar. You did not just kind of like squirm your way along through time like this in order to get to where you are now. You flew. You flew on wings of time and you flew into this dimension. That's why this is the flying rainbow lasagna, not just like the inching along like a caterpillar lasagna. All right, you got it? So the Merkaba, or the star tetrahedron, is ancient information that comes to us from that very pure, very elevated civilization known as Atlantis. It is information that was held in trust for humanity during a very, very dark and troubled time of turmoil, when all of that type of information was, they attempted to eradicate it so that that way no one would know what is going on. And I want to say no one could get out of here, so that your journey would be harder. The control structure that put you into this limited level of reality intentionally took away like the how-to manuals and all of the important chapters that are about like how to fly interdimensionally. Because of course, if you were a butterfly, you would fly right between the bars of your prison cell and go wherever the F you want, right? Okay. So these are all about tools for consciousness freedom, tools for interdimensional journeying. To reiterate, the word Merkaba means light body vessel. You might even be familiar with the teachings of the ancient Egyptians. The Ka and the Ba are aspects of the eternal soul or the afterlife presence. So I do not use those phonemes in reference to ancient Egypt, but I bring that up so that you know Egypt was a vestigial trace and an outgrowth of what we had in Atlantis. And some of the ideas remained and were sustained, and some of the words were taken and given new meaning and incorporated into new forms of self-exploration, self-construction, and spiritual insight. And some of the stuff that we knew about or know about in the civilization of Atlantis was held in a little secret way, because they had all of these mystery schools and mystery traditions, not only in Egypt, but in places like ancient Greece, the Hindu Empire, Maya civilization, native cultures or indigenous cultures in various different continents. Everybody held some of this information. And now in humanity's unfolding or elevation or moment of coming forward is when all of these fragments are able to be brought forward to you, no longer hidden. They're not in danger of being wiped out by the control structure. And instead, all of these fragments are vital for your development, your growth, your insight, and again, your way out of here, which is consciousness freedom. So when I say out of here, I am not talking about a clank clank middle spaceship, that form of escapism. And I'm also not talking about the type of escapism that's like when people think of dying or having an out of body experience, where you would kind of like leave your cellular body behind, like taking off your whatever, your bathrobe and leaving it on the floor, and your spirit is going to fly free or fly off like Casper the Friendly Ghost. No. In fact, your physical body is super, super valuable and you don't want to leave it behind at all. And this is a major, major, major recalibration in everything about it, that your expectation has been given to you, even the concept of afterlife. Pardon me. The concept of that you're going to die and then somehow your consciousness is going to keep on going on. It's like saying, like, you have a boat and your boat is sailing along, but then at a certain point, your boat will be whisked away and you will just kind of be like hovering there above the waves and somehow still moving forward. Like that's the concept, the human concept of afterlife. And of course, like humans have a wildly different conception of not only what is life and what is time, but what is afterlife. Dogs and cats and all of these other forms of very, very present consciousness do not necessarily think about afterlife in the same way that humans have. Like humans have formalized their sense of the afterlife, turned it into a space place, turned it into a whole organized context with rules, even though the rules are relatively loosey-goosey, but the sense of rules of morality and behavioralism while you are alive, and then the rules of how the afterlife behaves and what your life will be like or your existence will be like in that, no longer alive state. Animals do not have any kind of codified consistent expectation in the same way that humans do, literally. And this is just very, very different. So the human mind and what you're doing is using your ability to create, sorry, that was such a fragmented way of saying it, with your human mind, like with your higher faculties, your imagination, your ability to envision, your butterfly wings of consciousness. You are using that to envision an afterlife. Mostly, not you, but humans are who I'm projecting in the you there. Humans are doing this, and that's because death has been an inevitability, and death is not really the exit from this time vortex. It's not really the true attainment of freedom, but it is at least something that is outside of the realm of materiality, and it is one of the few places or moments in consciousness existence that humans have any level of higher dimensional perspective. So, to be able to see and assess your whole entire life and the events of your life. It's very difficult for humans in their distorted body presences to retrospect and introspect effectively. Sometimes people only get that introspection and retrospection on the moment of their death, right? What a highly ironic time to learn about oneself. Like, it is no longer relevant. Isn't it so nice that now you have this beautiful, clear view of your life and everything that's brought you up into that moment? Like, while you are like plummeting to your doom, or you know what I mean, like whatever, otherwise, whatever, be in the moment of being destroyed, you're like, oh, look at that. Now I see and understand everything. Ah, well, too bad, I'm at the end of my life. But what you guys know from my description of time flowing through this vortex shape is that death is not only not the end, afterlife isn't experienced as it is presented a one-shot deal in most popular human forms of expectation and religious expectation, but that after having that assessment and those moments of introspection and retrospection, what really happens is you are reinserted. And so you have many, many opportunities. So that's a big distinction to comprehend. But also, as the Flying Rainbow Lasagne was invented almost 24 years ago, the anniversary of that is October 8th, and that was 2001. And we're coming up on October 8th very, very soon. That's the anniversary date of my walking in. And so then that will be like 24 years. And we always have to laugh because I always thought that I would have this like super short gig. And then I thought I was going to be done in 2003. I know. And then it's been like 24 years. Like we have to laugh at that. Okay. But this does relate to the sense of leaving one's body or leaving the planet, and is that a sign of success? Or is it success and is it victory to fully stay with your body and with your cellular structure and transform the basic nature of what your body is to be in a state of pure freedom? That is the ultimate. So that's what I'm trying to get across to everyone. Other schools of thought or teachers might have portrayed death as either a gateway to something greater, a necessary transition, or an escape valve to be able to get out of a very, very flawed level of consciousness. I do not see it as any of those things. It is possible to get out of this very, very flawed realm or level of consciousness. But the getting out, let's talk about what this looks like and feels like, really is a restructuring and reformation of what your body is and a recontextualization or creating of a new relationship with matter and time itself. So I recognize that in this world, a lot of people feel very distant from their physical body forms. I also recognize in this world that a lot of people have an inner bifurcation between their levels of their physical body, their mammalian emotions, and their daily conscious intellect. That's red, orange, and yellow. Here, I'm going to show you on our graph. Red, orange, and yellow represents a certain level of being. People call it the ego or the lower self. And then there are all of these other layers of being or layers of who you are in time that were either separated from self artificially mostly through the verbalized talking mind and the barriers of the ego, but also through some social and cultural expectations that the heart and everything in the upper levels of your being that was considered like only for fancy folk. Pinkies up. That's only for like monks, ascended masters, people that sit on a mountaintop wearing all white all the time, not like regular people that are, having families, pushing a wheelbarrow full of doo-doo, doing the dishes, doing the laundry. They're like, no, like love and getting to this level is just like for masters. And then all of the other stuff on top of there is like magical superpowers that is not for you, regular peasants of consciousness. That's only for special folk. And I have always been here trying to tell you, like, no, you're a full spectrum human. So that means that you're everything from the physicality structure and your cellular nature and the part of you that would push a wheelbarrow full of compost around your garden to grow stuff, all the way through these other time body layers, all the way up to your DNA and your most crystalline architecture and beautiful purified water level of self and your divine connection, that whole entire level of self. And it is totally appropriate for a fully self-actualized person, an ascended master, a person who knows all of their layers and levels of self, to garden. Totally appropriate. That is not like some low, like Quasimodo. Like Quasimodo should be like pushing a wheelbarrow and doing all sorts of dirty work. And special ascended people are like, ding, like no, like I'm wearing my opera gloves or something like that. Like I can't get myself dirty. No, because gardening is very sacred and very elevated. And what I'm trying to get across here is that the tasks that are looked at and denigrated as far too dirty, microbial, or mundane to be something that an elevated ascended master would do, those are very important tasks, including having a body. So in the tasks of having a body, the things that are looked at and denigrated are things like digestion, like food goes in here. And then, you have to digest food in your tummy. And then, of course, like everyone knows, you have to make doo-doos, but also like what happens if you burp or something like that? Like, do ascended masters ever burp? Do they have to make doo-doos? All these different questions. And the truth is that it is very ascended to eat food on a conscious level and know that you are ingesting a miracle into the miraculous nature of your own body miracle and creating a quantum entanglement so that way you can continue to be alive. Like it sanctifies the mundane. It brings meaning and profundity to things that most people do on an unconscious way that they look at as the baseline for what it is to stay alive. But those things that you do to stay alive are nonetheless miraculous. So we're looking at redefining having a body, redefining where you receive nourishment from, redefining how you have a relationship with time. This is very different than some escapism where you're like, launch, like, get me out of here. I'm no longer going to be here. Like what it looks like on the other side is like, you are still here. And I don't want you guys to be disappointed because you thought there would be like launch and that you'd be like flinging yourself along somehow. And that instead, like you wake up and you're like, I'm still on earth, like harumph. Because what's going to happen is you have been here for a very long time, not really able to connect with and appreciate the glory of the resources that are here. Like I'm certain that you have seen a tree or walked near a tree, but in the state of dishevelment that you were in terms of the shape of the waters of your body, shape and functioning and behavior of your DNA, shape of your membranes, and shape or tune of the music that you were making as consciousness and as a musical instrument, you were not able to access and integrate with the beautiful harmony, like from last week's class, the symphony of life in the way that you should. Like you've been here, but you haven't really been able to access all of the amazing qualities of what it is to be here because there have been so many distortions in your own body, but then also distortions in the environment. And instead of saying like, oh no, what a punishment, more time on earth, well, be like, no, what a wonderful opportunity, more time on earth, because the time that you get on earth is different qualitatively, and you finally get a chance to do the things that you were always meant to be here for. So again, if the transition was instantaneously like poofing off into a puff of smoke and becoming a being of pure light, purely ephemeral energy, and simply going in a beautiful direction of freedom, that is great. And that is definitely something that I've experienced, and that is something that you wish to do. And don't do it prematurely and skip over all of the amazing stuff that you are actually here to experience, and which will be the foundation and the basis for so much of your creativity going forward. Like butterflies are really nourished by the activities of what they ate as caterpillars when they were food eaters. So you have to revel in the sense of the level of development that you are at and saturate yourself with the resources. That way, when you don't have those resources anymore, the times that you did have the resources sustain you and help you to keep going forward. Okay, so I'm just gonna clearly I need to hydrate and refocus my brain. This semester, I've already taught you all about the star tetrahedron and transforming it from a tetrahedron to an octahedron. Show you on my very, very fancy pieces of cardboard. When we have a pyramid that is like this is an equilateral pyramid. All of the faces are equilateral triangles. All of the equilateral triangles have 60-degree angles. 60, 60, 60. This is recap. That's why I'm going so fast. But when we go into a transformation and we transform from tetrahedron to octahedron, the amazing thing that happens is we create a 90-degree angle. So I just took this that was down at the bottom and I just hinged it up, not adding anything that wasn't already there. I'm just rearranging puzzle pieces. When I do that, now you have a shape that is more like the pyramid in Egypt. That is known as the Great Pyramid, square on the bottom. And up here at the top, you have a 90-degree angle. So now you have not only the original, use my little pointer, 60, 60, 60 degrees, but this angle becomes a 90-degree angle. And of course, although this is not being held perfectly because I'm doing it with one hand, so I can point, this is a 90-degree angle. The 90-degree angle is the angle of jumping from one timeline to another. And I put this down. My hand is timed. Sorry, this is paint because I've been painting on my clothing project. My hand is timed, and these are all timelines, and they are parallel to each other. Parallel lines meet at infinity. These are the rules of perspective. And how do you get from one of these timelines to one of the other timelines? How do you jump time roads? How do you do that? Well, that's easy, or you have to make either a left or a right turn at 90-degree angles. Going on the road of time, left turn, 90-degree angle. How about road of time, right turn, 90-degree angle. Without that 90-degree angle, you don't have the capacity to change time roads effectively. So the 90-degree angle is part of the strudel recipe. That is required for you to really achieve consciousness freedom. When people talk about the Merkaba or the flower of life being frustratingly limited in its full expression as a teaching, it is because that would be considered just running on the hamster wheel if you could never change time roads from the left to the right. That it would be very frustrating. You need to be able to have access to all of these capabilities in order to truly be free. And when you change time roads, what you're doing is not necessarily inhabiting a void. Like, I don't like life in reality. Like, I think I'll just go at a 90-degree angle and just go into a void, and then it will float as point of consciousness. And I won't have to worry about wearing a dress, doing laundry, having clean underwear, or paying my Geico bill. That is not a good solution. That is definitely unhealthy escapism. So healthy transformation and metamorphosis or state change means that as you accrete more light, get going faster on your inner metabolic level, become more of a master in how you inhabit your body and what you can do with your own molecular structure, that you can redefine what it is to use matter, use or experience energy, inhabit or experience consciousness, and have a much more comfortable level of experience. But it does not mean that you will no longer need matter or no longer inhabit the world. You're still going to inhabit the world. In fact, even more so than ever. Okay, so please make that a part of your expectation that you're not going to be like, din, 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 the end, gotta leave my body behind. There's something laying on the floor, but my spirit flies away. That is actually not a good ending. That is actually not a happy ending at all. That is a very, very sad, wasteful ending. So please envision dun, 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 the end, and a ton of light floods into you, accelerates and energizes every single like little gear and wheel of energy inside of you, and you accelerate like to totality. All right, that's a lot better. Okay, so think of it in those terms. So now refocusing back to the curriculum and what I'm here to teach you about. So Flying Rainbow Lasagne is the higher dimensional state of this torus shape. So what I just showed you with the Merkaba is you go from a lower dimensional state, which is the star tetrahedron, into a higher dimensional state, which is the octahedron. So I should change these around so that one is on the left and one is on the right. Go from a lower dimensional state, which is the torus, into a higher dimensional state, which is the Flying Rainbow Lasagne. Both of these journeys are journeys of your consciousness. Both of these journeys are journeys of your perception, or they are using the muscle of your willpower and exhibited in the expression of your perception. So now let's talk about the bridge between squares and hexagons and this transformation from a six-sided shape to an eight-sided shape. The star tetrahedron, this is a star tetrahedron. And we look at this, I know this is black onyx, can't really see it that well, as a six-sided shape, all right? And the octahedron is an eight-sided shape. And what you're basically doing, before I go into my picture sharing of today, you are having to integrate with your body all of the forms and molecular shapes that are based in 6 and 60-degree angles into a higher dimensional world that includes and encompasses 60-degree angles, but also encompasses and requires, or incorporates and requires 90-degree angles. So you guys have your physical form that is ruled by and requires water, which is hexagonal, and carbon atoms, which are also hexagonal. I will draw all of this for you. And you're not just a meat sack. And that is one of the most insulting and reductionist things that I dislike hearing in our world. When people talk about your beautiful physical body, and they're like, oh yeah, you're a meat sack. And I'm like, no, this is so important and valuable and is so much more than that. So your physical cellular body is a highly tuned frequency antenna, and the water that's in your body has to be perfectly structured. If you structure your body correctly, you are much, much more than just a pile of meat. You are a vehicle for interdimensional travel. And that is why experts do star travel, like just with your body. We do not, like, I didn't park my metal spaceship. I didn't come here and be like, oh, where am I going to park this thing? Okay, leave it over here. Here's my Starship Enterprise. And now I'm going to go like, dum, 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 dum. I think I'll go, get a job in town and work for humans. No, that is not what I did. And then you can also comprehend why it's extremely limited for, various serious humans, like non-ironic humans, to be like, yeah, we're looking for signs of extraterrestrial life and intelligence. So we're looking for like a clank mental spaceship, presuming that someone came to this world like in a metal saucer and it clanked on down and they got out and they were like, ah, look, I'm on Earth. I think I'll go, whatever, buy something at a store or participate in your commerce in some way. Like, no, none of us would do that at all. So, you just have to kind of, again, recalibrate your expectations completely for what visitoring, you gotta love it, visitoring into this world is like. So no, I do not come in a externalized form of technology. My body is the form of vehicle that I use for transporting my consciousness. And you guys are like, oh, wait a minute, Aurora, you're a rocket, and that wasn't always your body. And I'm like, you guys are right. That is correct. This used to be a body that was calibrated a lot more the way that your guys' bodies calibrated in terms of the genetic dance or oscillations of what the previous inhabitant of this body was doing, living very similar to the way that you guys are living. And in the walk-in experience, when she was being killed and her soul was being erased, I came in as Aurora, which is a completely different genetic dance. So I took the same raw materials of the person who is here, but I am moving these puzzle pieces in a very different way. And that is what the Flying Rainbow Lasagne is. And this Flying Rainbow Lasagne, higher dimensional genetic dance of freedom, is something that I do. I innovated it. I mastered it. I am teaching it to you or mentoring it or making it available to you. But each one of you has to customize it. These are the rules because you all have your own unique genetic presence, your own soul's journey, your own physical body. So you can't take a direct, like cut and paste, like Aurora, paste it onto you. No, but you can take some elements of what I do and get inspired by them and then incorporate them into your own unique dance. And again, all of this is about transforming the shape of what you are so that you can go through higher dimensional portals. What is on the other side of the higher dimensional portal or doorway? Not nothing, something, not a void. So a void is like nothing, no energy, inky blackness. That is not what is there. There is stuff, there is experience. And the experience might even involve like matter, having presence, other people, edifices of time. Like there's all sorts of things, but everything will be redefined. The rules of reality will be redefined. We'll have a more expansive and a more just experience, and it will be much more optimized and calibrated into the way that it's supposed to be. But I don't want you also to think that the solution is leave behind a pile full of garbage. Like this place is garbage. Launch, get out of here. Or this timeline here, this timeline is so garbage. Let's launch, get out of here, and go to this timeline over here. That's actually not what we are doing, because I know that this is all like a lot for you to be able to comprehend. You transform time by perfecting your own body. So instead of leaving behind a giant pile of trash, like you are perfected, you become the beautiful pearl and leave behind the garbage world that, created you. And then you go off to some beautiful pearly, evolved state. No, this is not what I'm proposing here. What I am proposing is that as you become structured and perfected in what you are, you emanate that structure and perfection to your environment, and you change your environment so that it becomes more highly structured. And the key points of what are some, we're going to talk about what crystals are today, crystals and time crystals. Crystals purify. Because, like, if you have ever done this experiment where you have impure water, water with some kind of sediment or something in it, and then you freeze it, you look at the ice cubes. What happens is that the impurities march to the edges. They go to the periphery because as the ice cube starts to freeze in the middle, that part is water crystals and it's purified, and everything that's not water gets shoved to the edges or up to the top. and then you end up having just the purified water, okay? So we have to do picture pages, and we have to talk about water and carbon in your body. So the water and carbon in your body very much relate to hexagons. And this is not specifically a hexagon. You have to actually add a couple of triangles over here, but hexagons are six-sided. Let's do have a little Cheeky's waking up. I'm just gonna come say hi. See if there's a good way for me to kind of like bake this up so that it looks like a hexagon for you. Cheeky, we have to say hi. This is what a hexagon looks like, six-sided, and it's made out of six little pieces of pie. And that's just like the Trivial Pursuit game pieces. Time to take a break. Don't be serious for one moment. Time to hug a dog. Hug a dog. Excellent. Good job. Thank you, as always, everyone, for giving me a moment to hug Cheeky. There might be bribes. You did just bribe me before class. Thank you very much. And you know what I just as a total brief aside, I always tell Cheeky, like, oh, Cheeky, everybody loves you. Everybody in town loves you. Everybody at the store loves you. Everybody on our videos loves you. Everybody in class loves you. So thank you very much for all of the community support that Cheeky gets. Okay, and for letting me be a little bit silly during class. Good job. Okay, good job. Let's see. Is it time? We should wait. We should wait before we hit bribes. Let's see if we can wait. I will hydrate. We'll keep going. Okay. Pictures first and telling you what a hexagon is. Of course, you know I organize everything. You know I organize everything. Oh, wait, first fun, cool stuff I wanted to share with you intentionally. This is new music. So this is on my Bandcamp. I just uploaded this over the weekend. It's not official on like Apple Music, et cetera, but you can find it on my Bandcamp. This album is called Aftermath. Very kick-ass. Really, really good. And I had that up intentionally because I wanted to remember I got to tell you guys about it. So yeah, go listen to it. I didn't even do a listening party yet. I will schedule a listening party. I've been working on my fashion project so much, to tell you the truth. So I have to finish at least one dress. I have something to wear, and then we'll do our listening party. Okay, so getting serious now for real. And then you can see another important project there. Now I'm finally starting to get to the pictures I wanted to show you. Okay, so first of all, this is what I'm talking about when I talk about a Merkaba or a star tetrahedron or a light body vehicle. This is an emanation of your imagination. You envision this with your pineal gland or your inner movie projector, and you create this force field around you by thinking about it and putting passion into it and putting energy into it and putting breath into it. And it is not a static object, it is spinning. So this vertex that comes outward from the heart, you spin around to the left for a woman. And then this vertex that comes outward from the base of the spine, you spin around to the right for a woman. And you get these counter-rotating fields spinning in perfect balance. And when you do, then you will feel a line of energy that comes from this lower one all the way through your body to this upper one. Now, these have complementary places, one of which goes down into the core of Earth or the center of matter itself, one of which goes upward to the sun, or you could think of it as going into the world of pure light. And this definitely represents a balance between the world of matter and the world of either pure energy or ephemera or things that are non-tangible. This is also a balance between yourself as an individual and what you impulse and what you want as an ego presence, in complementary contrast with what the world wants for you, the larger currents of time, the bigger consciousness that is directing your consciousness. So a lot of balance, a lot of partnership, a lot of beauty, but this also can be used as a type of martial arts. So, the origin of this shape is really about beauty, but there are times when you will have to use it as a very, very strong immune system, as a series of rotating planes and force fields that are almost like a Cuisinart of truth. to block out things that are not truthful and to make it possible for you to fly through a lot of turmoil in time and non-ideal structures and make it to where you need to go. So I've already done this basic teaching, but there are 3 levels to what this is. Immune system is the first part. Next part is wish making in beautiful, respectful collaboration with the cosmos. And then the third part is the interdimensional voyaging. And so interdimensional voyaging, that is more of what we're talking about today with the creation of your diamond body. So now this one down and I'll show you this. This is the molecular structure of a diamond. I did not draw this. I am trying to make it bigger. It is a particular crystalline structure that is made up of individuated carbon molecules. So each of these is a carbon atom, and each of these 6 carbon atoms gets together to make a carbon molecule. And the carbon molecule is 6-sided or hexagonal. If you need a little memory device to remember what hexagonal means, hexa and sixa, they sound kind of the same to me because I've got that exa sound in it. Hexa and sixa. So hexagon means 6-sided. And each one of these, it's counted out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Each one of these little molecular arrangements is 6-sided. And this is a perfect crystalline structure, meaning that it is symmetrical and tessellated. Tessellated means tiling. A tessellation means a tiling. And it means that there is no space or there are no gaps in between these molecules. They are arranged perfectly or tiled perfectly, although this is a 3-dimensional tiling and arrangement. Out of that perfect molecular arrangement comes a great deal of strength, but not only strength as humans use diamonds as like the extreme and edge of hardness on the hardness scale, but also brilliance, which is the ability to increase light that is emitted from it, and clarity, which is the capacity to transmit light. So you go from carbon being a disarranged molecular structure that is known as coal and is generally smeary and black, so it's soft and it's opaque. And as it becomes more arranged, like as each one of these hexagonal pieces of carbon becomes more arranged, the clarity of the material increases. So when the molecules are not yet a diamond, but they're more arranged than a bunch of coal, what you have is graphite. And graphite is actually, I didn't have a pencil right here, but I have a whole art studio right over here. It's full of pencils. Wait, let me hydrate. That is also my life. Like I have 10 million pencils, like just like 5 feet over there, but I don't know where any of them are right now. But if I could hold up a pencil right now, I'd be like, yeah, here's some graphite. So graphite is still smeary. It's kind of like coal, but it has a slipperiness to it and is often used as a dry lubricant. And also, like when you use your pencil across paper, what does it feel like? It feels flowy. It feels smooth, different than charcoal. If you're an artist, you've ever used charcoal, charcoal feels scratchy and smooshy. So what happens with carbon that has become more organized into the molecular structure known as graphite, the molecules are slippery. They slide past one another. So you have this kind of flat hexagonal molecular structure that kind of reminds me of a dinner plate. And these dinner plates kind of like slide back and forth across each other very easily. And then when the molecules get even more organized than that, what you end up with is this beautiful diamond shape over here. And I'm going to also bring you through. Hold on, I have to stop share for a minute. No, I can do this. Let me show this to you because that's what these guys are. So this is creation of your diamond body. Okay, first three. This one is number 1. So each one of these layers here, red, green, and blue, represents a layer of graphite. Here you can see the 6-sided hexagonal carbon shapes. And you can understand the dinner plate, like dinner plate, dinner plate, dinner plate, and these guys glide along each other. You would consider this to be two-dimensional. There's X and Y, there's length and width, but they are not yet in the higher dimension that gives height. File that away. Length and width, but no height. Okay? Now, in the next image, you start to see those same flat things starting to become ridged or rigid. Not rigid like hard, but ridged like rigid potato chips. That's the best analogy I can come up with. Zigzags, up, down, up, down, up, down. They start to achieve the next highest dimension, which is the third dimension. They start to become not a flat piece of paper, but something that has folds, like origami. And then in the third image, the individual sheets of carbon have become perfectly ridged. And they also now have these vertical supportive structures that represent height. They've achieved the next dimension and then created the diamond structure. So I'll do more picture pages, but let's talk about what is diamond structure. This is from Teachings of Asia and the Religion of Asia. They talk about the Vajrayana body. So Vajrayana translates as the diamond body. And the concept of this is that after a certain amount of creating light, wisdom, spiritual attainment, an aspirant will achieve the diamond body, which is indestructible, has great levels of durability and clarity, can contain and emit an enormous amount of light, and is also considered to be a vehicle for interdimensional travel. That is your goal. That is what you want to do. I also want to joke about like this being my diamond ring, and I'm just like that wealthy client I once had who waved her diamonds out. It was just like, oh, just make it happen. Just make it happen for me, darling. You have to talk like that when you have diamonds today, just darling. But yes, darling. This is a Herkimer diamond, which is not a carbon diamond. It is a form of quartz. But I'll tell you, Herkimer diamonds are really valuable and amazing. This one I did not mine and dig up myself, but I did do Herkimer diamond mining when I was in New York State, because that's like one of the only places where you can get those. There's a place called Herkimer. Go there. If you're ever on a journey or having an adventure, or if you live in the area, it's worth it. Go there. But here's what I would tell you to do. Don't go into the main quarry where everybody goes and you get like a shovel and you're like cracking rocks and thinking that that's how you're going to get all your diamonds. No, all you have to do is go to the upper level where there's kind of like trees and stuff like that. And you just look on the ground, because the water, and especially go after it rains, and wear your worst clothes because you'll get very muddy. But the water washes down all of these little tiny, 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 beautiful little perfect seed crystals out of the rocks and crevasses, and they're just kind of all on the ground. So they're right there. You don't have to like break the earth open to get them, but you do have to get down on your belly and kind of look really, really tiny and get them. But it's very, very satisfying and fun. So anyway, Herkimer, New York is where you will get things that are called Herkimer diamonds, but they are not the traditional diamonds that we know as the carbon diamonds of like engagement rings. So this is a Herkimer diamond, but they're very, very wonderful and unique because they have like twin termini. And this one is very uniquely clear. They're not usually this clear and this big. They're usually little and tiny. So I'm lucky that I have this one. But to refocus on what is special about crystals. Crystals have a very regular molecular structure, and crystals are great at holding information. So what you are supposed to do is cultivate your physicality presence by embodying more and more and more light, so that way you can be a better and more accurate container for information. One of the ways in which you can contain more light is through structuring the waters of your body. I will now name body parts that contain water. Your eyeballs, like inside of your eyeballs. Of course, your salivary gland and digestive tract, your cytoplasm, which is the goo inside of all of your cells of your body. Your cerebral spinal fluid. That's what literally the water inside of and surrounding your brain. There's super purified water inside of your pineal gland. There's super purified water inside and around each of your mitochondria. And your cells have thousands of mitochondria in them. And the super purified water that is created there is an end result of this magical quantum process that happens when you take glucose, which is solidified light, and transform it into the energy that is the energy that, like, can make your body go. That happens at the level of your mitochondria. And it also creates this super purified water. And also in your wonderful veins and arteries. So in your veins and arteries, if this is a cross section and you have epithelial cells over here, and then you have like blood is flowing in this area here. This area right along here is where you get super purified water. That is known as the fourth phase of water that happens as an end result of literally the electrification of your blood supply. Your blood is like positive and negative charge, like a battery electricity. And the electricity and the super purified water here is really what propels the circulation throughout your body. So, you have like clearly red blood cells that are here in the center portion of your blood flow, blood supply that is moving through this tube. But the area that is right here near that membrane is super purified water that holds a charge. And it is known as easy water, not because it's easy, like it goes somewhere on the first date. Exclusion zone. Exclusion zone, easy. Exclusion zone means that is an area where the water is hyper organized, like a crystal, and does not contain anything other than water, which means it is also hyper purified. When you organize stuff like that, that's called making it into a crystal. Mostly when you think about organizing water into a crystalline form, you think of it as getting frozen. You're like, yeah, I know this story. This is called winter time, or putting things in the freezer if you live in California. And that is basically turning liquid water into a crystal. So of course, let's talk about this. I come from, upstate New York. Snow is a dirty word. It's a 4-letter word. We hate snow because you have to shovel snow and it's so bad, cold, and naughty. But snowflakes themselves are beautiful. And guess what? Snowflakes have a hexagonal shape. That means they have 6 sides. When you take liquid water and you freeze it in just the right conditions, you get those beautiful snowflake shapes. They are 6-sided, hexagons. So there's a direct relationship between hyper-organized water crystals, which are 6-sided, and the 60-degree angles, and the part of you that is related to hexagons. Now, to get my little orange shape here, because I don't always emphasize this shape in class, but it's really important. This shape represents the negative space of this shape. So even though the sizes aren't perfect, and this shape is pretty old, but if I hold it in just the right way. So here, negative space. Class, we are now in art class, all right? We're in sculpture class. Let's talk about positive and negative space. So in a sculpture, you have positive and negative space, not about how good the space is. Your coffee cup has positive and negative space. Positive space is the actual ceramics of the coffee cup. The negative space is where the coffee goes in the mug, or where your hand goes through the handle. The non-stuff, that is called negative space, all right? This orange sculpture represents the negative space that is created by this 4 vortex shape. So I don't have enough hands to be able to wiggle, but like where I'm wiggling my thumb over here, that becomes one of these orange shapes. And now we have to count how many lobes there are in this orange shape. So usually, like on all of my paintings, you see 4 lobes. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's because usually with my paintings, they're flat. You're looking at a cross section. Took a giant chef's knife and we chopped it like that. That's mostly what you're looking at. Like we cut the apple in half. We're looking at the inside of the apple. But there is the whole other half of the apple where you have 5, 6, 7, 8. That's what I'm holding on to back here with my hand. 5, 6, 7, and 8. So what you have here as the negative space of the toroidal shape, the lower dimensional version of the Flying Rainbow Lasagne, is an 8-lobe shape. And these 8 lobes are not static. They're, of course, always spinning around and rolling around, and they have their own spiral nature, kind of like a football. But what matters to you in comprehending the hexagonal nature of the flying flower of life and relating it to the Flying Rainbow Lasagne, I almost said the wrong words, but I pulled it off there. Start again. Relating the hexagonal nature of the flower of life to the Flying Rainbow Lasagne shape, you have to tilt this shape in just the right way. So if I tilt it just right, let's see if I did my homework correctly. Almost kinda. Almost kinda. Okay, pretty good enough. Let's count the radial spokes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I gotta move my arm in a weird way. 6. That's a flower of life. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Around in a radial spokes. But you also see, what's this? This is the one that is sticking towards the camera. It is foreshortened. And then also, so I'm going to keep the pen on this. Let's turn this whole thing to the side. Boop. What is this? This is the one that is sticking backwards away from the camera. You have one that sticks forward and you have one that sticks away. Those go into the higher dimensional planes. So when carbon gets an extra dimension, it becomes diamond. It goes from being flat planes to being rigid potato chips to being a diamond structure. All right. When you take the flat plane of the flower of life and you add forward facing lobe here and the other one that sticks behind it, you are adding the ridges, the higher dimensional truth. The strudel recipe is incomplete when it only shows you a slice of reality. And that slice, again, would be, my hand is a chef's knife. I'm cutting through time. I'm gonna chop off this back part here, and then I'm gonna chop off this front part here, and I'm just gonna show you this part, this plane. That is what other teachers have called the daisy of death. They're like, don't be believing in the daisy of death. It will bring you to your ruin. And the answer is that's true. Caution flags. It is an incomplete teaching. But when you add it together with all of this other knowledge, it becomes a teaching of great profundity and truth that gives you the secret to how to get out of your prison. So don't throw it away and be like, I'm not going to believe in that crap. Like, that's death. I'm not going to do that. Like, actually, many aspersions have been cast upon this shape to make you feel distaste for it, so that you will reject your own keys to freedom, because you will be like, oh, I heard a lot of bad rumors about that. I don't think I will participate. Nope, no freedom for me. And instead, this is like very, very essential for you. So this shape, that is this 8-lobe shape, relates directly to a wonderful painting that I did years ago and brought to the math conference that is called The Bridge Between Squares and Hexagons. Okay, and here I've got my annotation, which I'm very excited for. So this is a perfect example of how I use optical illusions in my paintings to be able to convey this deep information and profound truth. First, let's look at a shape of a hexagon. I'm outlining it here in white. Let's count like we're on Sesame Street. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And in tracing the perimeter, I really flattened out that shape for you. Right now, probably to your eyes, it doesn't look like it is a shape that has depth and volume and form to it. It just looks like a flat shape. But now let's look at this hexagon over here. It's literally exactly the same size and angles as this hexagon over here. But what I did was I used artistic tricks of the trade. That's called shading. All right. And you have to have three different shades. Here's the darkest one, shadow. Here is the middle one, medium, like, tone. And here's the lightest one. Three different colors, three different shades. And what happens is your brain reads this along with a lifetime of post-Renaissance imagery in ingesting training. You have learned to look at this shape as if it is a box, not as if it is a hexagon. And so the key point, so you look at this corner as if it is coming off the page, as if it is jumping forward towards your face. And you also read this as if this corner is receding and going far away from you. And you know what? In this painting, I also did this very intentionally. This is called two-point perspective. This goes to the infinity edge over here. This goes to the infinity edge over here. So all of these visual cues align to be able to give you the information that this is not a flat plane. This is a place where there's depth. This comes forward, this goes backwards. All right. So this is how your brain is reading and interpreting the visual information, especially the colors and the values and the tones that I'm giving to you here. But what's really happening is this shape is the same exact shape as this shape. So this painting is called The Bridge Between Squares and Hexagons. It's just a detail of it, but it's basically about what our perception does to bring us from this flattened level of reality that is truthful, but limited in its truth, into this higher dimensional level of reality that is a truer portrayal of molecular experience, but requires interpretation and expertise from the viewer. That you are basically what adds the extra dimension from flat to formful. You are making it look like this flat shape over here all of a sudden jumps forward and becomes a box. That is how you create your Vajrayana body. So you don't make a spaceship by getting some metal, melt it in a giant cauldron, smelt it into, sheet metal, whatever, rivet it together in a factory, create an encapsulation and blast off using liquid oxygen. No, you do not create an external vehicle. Your vehicle is your awareness. Your vehicle is your perception. Your vehicle is your ability to interpret raw data to either look like a flat hexagon or to look like a formful square cube. So now let's talk about what cube is to tesseract. Torus is to Flying Rainbow Lasagne. This is math talk. So I can hold up a cube. Where's the cube? Do I have one? This is so funny. I don't know if I have anything that is representative of a pure cube here in my studio. Sorry, I wasn't prepared for class. But here, I'll hold up this is a rectangle. I know it's not a cube, but just a little thing. All right, so what cube is to tesseract? What is a tesseract? It is basically an unfolding cube, or a cube when you place it into a higher dimensional time context. Those words probably did not help your brain at all because this is a very visual thing. Torus is to Flying Rainbow Lasagne. So cube is the lower dimensional version of a tesseract. Torus is the lower dimensional version of a Flying Rainbow Lasagne. This is a higher dimensional shape. And this is also a lower dimensional shape, star tetrahedron, and the octahedron is the higher dimensional shape. This is an octahedron, and I think this is a fluorite. So you can see it has the square base, but then it has equilateral triangles on the edges. So you have a transformation from this shape into this shape. And I already did that in class last week, 2 weeks ago. How does that transformation take shape? Through your perception. The magical thing that brings you through higher dimensional doorways is you. Do not have to create an external thing, and the creation of an external thing will not help you and will actually impede you and weigh you down from being able to do what you really need to do, because this is an internal process and an aspect of your consciousness, not something that is achieved through materialism. Okay, so Chris was asking, is this the crystal sequence, and spelled crystal with a K? And that was in me showing you how the molecular structure of carbon atoms rearranges from coal through graphite into diamonds. What I showed you is a sequence that is in alignment with the natural world, what we can observe with our five senses in the five senses world. Those are how molecules are shaped, and those are how molecules change shape in order to create these very different levels of increasing organizational complexity in the levels of, we call it the mineral kingdom, or the world of chemistry, or the world of matter. Matter and chemistry in your world are looked at too much as if they have no consciousness. I love teaching my Path of Light class because I really add the ingredient to all of these molecular chemistry, bonding and unbonding of covalence and forming of matter as really being a story of consciousness, not just like random oxygen particles that randomly bond together with other particles. Like, they have motivations, and they're also motivated and are an outgrowth of the world of light, motivated by and an outgrowth of the world of light, which is a world of pure consciousness. So the behavior of molecules and the creation of something like either a pile of coal or a beautiful diamond is an expression of consciousness. And science and materialism doesn't necessarily give enough credit to consciousness as an ingredient in the transformations that we're looking at. It's not just heat and pressure. You're like, okay, everybody, we all want to know, Aurora, how do I make a diamond? You're like, I got bills to pay. Hey, it's the first of the month. I got bills to pay. Tell me how to make a diamond. And I'm like, okay, guys, like, just take some carbon and smoosh it together with plenty of heat and pressure, and all of those wonderful molecules will just eventually organize themselves into a perfect, where's my engagement ring over here, a perfect diamond that you can either wave imperiously at someone to make requests or bring down to some jewelers and sell it so you can, make your bills and make your expenses. No, you would never want to do that. And also, if you were able to make some kind of magical diamond with your mind, please never go bring it to the jewelers and sell it. That thing would be worth so much in terms of being like a magical gem of reality. You can't just look at things as like their cost of their molecular structure. Like, once you start to create magical implements, like, you can't just sell them at the pawn shop or something like that. All right. But anyway, you are similar. Like, you can't just be like, I'm a meat sack. Like, here, buy a piece of my meat. That came out terribly. But anyway, people do sell parts of their bodies. Like, people sell their plasma. If you are busy cultivating the perfect divine calibration of every 60-degree angle in your body, you should not sell your body parts. You should not be like, well, I don't know, I can sell some of my blood plasma and get $100. You just spend so much time and energy in meditation making your angles perfect 60-degree angles on a cellular level. That's priceless. Can't sell that for $100. And clearly you would never sell other body parts to, like, whatever, your kidneys, organs, all of that. I'm very against all of that mishmashing and commingling of cellular structures anyway. But it just on a moral and on a consciousness level, like, you should not be intertwining with fates. But, and also, the value of your body becomes so much greater when you recognize that what you are doing is fine-tuning your body. So this is what I mean when I say that as you are becoming a fully activated light body, becoming an ascended master, get to these levels of mastery, begin to leave behind the expectations and cultural projections of what is beauty, like beauty standards that of who should be in a magazine or something like that. And what is beautiful is to you, what is beautiful to you is things that are highly organized, perfect 60-degree angles. Wow, look at all those perfect 60-degree angles in that body. Like, that's a well-organized body. Like that is what you're looking for. So these are markers or representations of things that include health and vitality. So the more like what in the human ethnocentric anthropocentric way of looking at things, people are like, yes, that person is healthy. Their skin is glowing, right? This is what you even say. You even say there is such a thing as the pregnancy glow. What you're really talking about is the water molecules in your body are perfectly arranged and structured in 60-degree angles so that that way you emit and transmit more light. This is how you glow. Not only are you a biophotonic system where you have all of these multiple beams of light go branching through all of your body and everything like that, but you also have light that comes into you and that you emit and light that you reflect. So some of the light you refract, that's when it comes into and then changes and comes out of you, and some light bounces off of you. And this is what the glow is. When you are shaped the right way, you glow. Okay, so wait, now we have to get my other little thing because so this is, I think, not even crystal. I think that this is just like a piece of glass, but I have it because it's faceted. So what is special about diamonds and crystalline structures are the facets of the molecular arrangement. Because when a beam of light, imagine this is a beam of light at a particular angle, starts to come into there, it hits a particular angle and then sometimes it bounces off, pow, and it goes off in this way. But sometimes it goes in a different way. It bounces off of that and then it goes inside and then it bounces around inside the inner angles of the inside of this shape. And then it bounces out. And that is literally why diamonds sparkle. So when you have a diamond, darling, it sparkles because light from the room enters into it, bounces all around inside, and then comes out extra. When you are a diamond person, or when you encounter a diamond creature, light, information, awareness, truth comes into that person and bounces all around the internal facets of your consciousness and your perception and your experience. And then it emerges extra. There's an extra oomph, a brilliance, a sparkle that comes out. You add velocity to those ideas. So think of it like, a song comes into you, you hear a song, and it inspires you. And then you're like, I love that song. I want to sing that song. And you sing that song and you do a great job and you add something unique and flavorful in your rendition of that song that makes that song sound even better. That's what you're doing with light when you are a diamond creature. So this is to get you away from the sense of wanting to disassociate from your physical body and to define success as the ultimate disassociation, which would be either death or becoming fully ephemeral. Whereas I define the ultimate success as staying in your body, but transforming your body until it is a perfectly organized, faceted diamond instrument. And when you are in that type of a body, like, first of all, you're not going to launch, fly off in every direction, but you're not going to put up with a garbage place. You are going to confront and clean up the disharmonics we were talking about last week's class, or non-life affirming frequency structures that are around you. Because you're not going to just be like, oh, well, I'm a perfect creature, perfectly tuned and emitting perfect light and perfect diamond brilliance. And I'm surrounded by a lot of gross doo-doos and dangerous crap. And I think I'll just leave it there. No, just the very presence of your body is going to clean up doo-doos and crap because what you're talking about is I need to hydrate. Confrontation of frequencies. Diamond body confronts these garbage frequencies. Diamond body will win. Diamond body has greater levels of coherence, meaning stick togetherness. So you have your diamond body and you're like, like spinning around, have this great levels going through your whole entire body, perfect 60-degree angles. And then when you encounter stuff that's not correct, you're like Cuisinart. You're just like, and you just plow through those things and disarrange those things, right? But let's say that you are this Cuisinart of truth, but you come upon like a giant amount of garbage, something that's too big for the Cuisinart. Like name a large thing, whatever, like a giant dead elephant. Like that is too big for you to chop up, that you would slow down or be diminished by something that is that giant to have to clean up. So this is big, important stuff. In the battle of frequencies, you have to make certain that you confront the correct scale of garbage or non-ideal frequencies around you so that you maintain your coherence. Because if you do too much confronting and you lose too much of your momentum, then you lose your own coherence. And you have been busy, cleaning up or confronting the stuff that is bad math and wrong around you to the point that it disarranged you. So you have to balance. You have to balance out maintaining your own coherence and your own stick togetherness of light waves and thought waves and values and your own ego identity or identity as an individual, and confronting bad math, stuff that's lies, stuff that's fragments of consciousness, which can also be unresolved emotional difficulties and echoes that might have come from traumas from another time and place, and also like other forms of like cruelty and malevolence. So this is important stuff because as your Cuisinart of truth, I'm talking about what it is to be a diamond body. Is it your job to be like, okay, great, I'm a diamond body. You've just achieved your diamond body. What are you doing? I'm going to Disneyland. No, you're like, I'm gonna scrub the cosmic toilet. Like this place is a mess. I think I'll go to the darkest places and scrub the toilet. Don't do that. You will go to all sorts of different places and you will be a cleansing force no matter where you go. But also, I would not want you to lose your momentum by going to the darkest, whatever, bleakest, giant rotting carcasses with your Cuisinart of truth to have to try to clean those things up. First of all, you should work together as a team. You have to disassemble a giant thing of untruth, work together as a team, and also, or make sure that you have enough inner momentum if you're going to come up on something so big that you're not going to get diminished. Diamonds are very, very hard. They are not indestructible. Your soul is very, very powerful, but I won't say indestructible. If you literally took a diamond, like if this was my giant diamond, and you put it on like a blowtorch, like an welding torch directly on it, a diamond is carbon. At a certain point, the diamond would either melt or ignite, and then it would go bye-bye. And I have seen videos of this, like a test tube full of tiny industrial diamonds, and they put a blowtorch on it, and then you can see them turn red hot, liquefy, and then disappear. This is really important. That you become an ascended master, you become a diamond body. You're like, don't, I'm a diamond body. I'm indestructible. I think I will plunge myself into the direct mouth of evil because I'm indestructible. Please don't. Please don't. That would be like taking yourself as a diamond body and putting yourself directly in the face of a blowtorch and destroying yourself, because you shouldn't do that, okay? So these are really important pieces of wisdom to internalize. I've spoken about how the Merkaba is a protective force field. It is an immune system. It does help you to reflect away things that are accidents, catastrophes, and mistakes, but it doesn't mean that nothing bad will ever happen to you. And similarly, having a diamond body You should not take it for granted or think in some way that it means that you should present yourself for endless abuse or endless violation or endless exploitation, or to have like the blowtorch of evil, like directly, directed to the middle, to the center of your face. No, you should not do that. You should get the F away from these forces of disarrangement. So force fields of protection, the Merkaba, the vehicles for consciousness transport exist to transport you away from the blowtorch of evil. Got it? Good. Although, as I said, you will encounter plenty of evil, like just being yourself and having a diamond body and going around in the world. You're like, oh, look at that. Like, I'm encountering evil. I'm Cuisinarting, the gross stuff away. I'm cleaning up the world with my presence. You are, and you will, but you will be volitional. And I would not recommend, I would not recommend for you to take your diamond body directly into like the most adverse conditions at all. In fact, I would encourage you to treat yourself as a very, very finely tuned instrument, like the Stradivarius. Instead of being like, "Ooh, I have a diamond body, I can go and stand anything, like throw me in a bucket of seawater." You should be like, "I have a Stradivarius. I should be in a perfect climate controlled, velvet lined box. And like people should respect me and treat me well." That is how you should look at yourself and consider yourself, okay? Because to have the powers of your diamond body means you've done a great amount of self-cultivation, perfecting of the self. You have made your body a complete treasure. And you have to treat it like a Stradivarius. You can't be like, well, like I'll just, store it under the worst conditions and knock it around, and then I'm still going to expect it to be perfectly tuned and function the way that it's supposed to. So now you understand that having your perfectly tuned Stradivarius body in a world that has a lot of frequency garbage is not good, very challenging. It's very hard for you to stay perfectly tuned in a world where all of these frequencies are impinging upon you and attempting to detune you. So, what you have to do as you're achieving your diamond body and as you have successfully done it, you have to look into your environment as well. So that means that you have to look to like, what are the origins of the disarrangement frequencies? Where are the things that like the blowtorches of evil, where do they come from? And then dismantle those things. So you can't just be like, don't, like, I'm a diamond person, I'm shielded, I fly around and nothing bothers me. Because you're always going to find out there's going to be something out there that either bothers you or melts your face. And then there will be limits. Because it's very tempting, I can sense, especially for people that come out of extreme adversity as you do, to be like, oh yeah, I can get my diamond body and then nothing's gonna hurt me, because that's what it's like when you have been hurt so much. It is a type of heaven to think like, oh yeah, nothing can hurt you. But the truth is there are always going to be things that can supersede your defenses, or they're always going to be trying to hack your system, or they're always going to be trying to bring you down. So you can't just always be like, like Superman kind of stands there and everybody like gets to shoot at him and he's like, don't, like, I don't care. Bouncing right off. That is not your job as a person who achieves the diamond body. It is not your job to present yourself as some kind of like object of abuse, to be shot at or mutilated or tormented or whatever and see how much you can take. That is very erroneous. And that feeds into some of the false tropes that come out of the false light Jesus movement, the sense of Jesus being this, incredible ascended master who presented himself to be folded, spindled, and mutilated and crucified, and could have not done that, but instead was making a point in doing that and kind of saying like, yeah, like you guys should do the same thing. Like you're going to, present yourself with your giant Superman chest that people can then shoot you and see if they can hurt you or see how much they can hurt you. No, And you should not do that. You should definitely not. You should be respected, not shot at. And same thing with DNA. When I've talked about some people looking at DNA and be like, okay, like let's see if we can hack this system. Let's see if you can, change the RNA messengers or make a genetic modification or make the natural behavior of the way that a person is different somehow so that then they're acting in a different way. And all of that is like, hugely disrespectful of DNA itself. And it's not how you get a stronger system. You don't get a stronger system by trying to stress test the DNA system and being like, okay, can we, like retrovirally this and that and bring it down? It's like, yeah, of course you're going to bring it down. Like so the whole point of what I'm trying to say here is that like life is a miracle. Consciousness is a miracle. It doesn't exist because it's constantly being stress tested and people are constantly trying to like do their worst to bring it down. No, it exists because so many of us are constantly trying to protect it, nourish it, keep it going, and prevent it from being harmed. That's how you should look at your diamond body, as something that you have a protective force field and you are very, very strong and have the potential to be impervious or very, very powerful, but that you should protect yourself and not present yourself or for some kind of stress testing. Okay, so Chris, and thank you for being here in class, says, yes, this diamond body is giving me more clarity. Thank you for your awesome teachings and wisdom. You are very, very welcome. So now let me just pull up my notes so that way I can bring some structure to what I'm talking about here. So first of all, a lot of people already know Flower of Life is from what people more recently have named sacred geometry. It's not an ideal descriptive term of like what these are, like what my drawings are, whatever. First of all, I always rant at least once a year against the term geometry, and here's why. So geometric means measuring the earth. Geometry comes from ancient Egypt. They had farm fields that were where the Nile would flood every year. And the Nile was necessary for their life's blood, but it would eradicate the carefully created perimeters around each individual farm field. So every year after the fertilizing floods came through, they would have to redraw the fields and they had to figure out how to do it fairly. And that is literally where geometry came from. Big long ropes with like knots that were meant to show increments and people measuring things like by the cubit or by the length of stride. Like this is very, very early stuff, very, very primal early stuff. But it is about measuring physicality, measuring either farmland or measuring whatever yards of cloth, something that is stuff, that is tangibility. And everything that I am teaching you about is really about consciousness, trajectories of consciousness, ephemeral aspects of your relationship to time, things that are abstract and things that aren't non-materialistic. So sacred geometry is just not the best word for it. But it's fair enough to be able to say that there are symbolic truths that are in the world of abstract polygons, some of which we can apply to the world of the physical five senses. And there's a little bit of cross-pollination from the wisdom of the world of the physical five senses to the world of pure polygons and pure truth. But it's not a 100% crossover. So like as you are making this bridge between squares and hexagons, like you're making this bridge between yourself as a physical structure and yourself as a time body, you are going to have to, negotiate what meshes effectively and what needs to be discarded and does not mesh effectively. Okay, so I already did very, very good in terms of being able to teach you. Oh, so let me do this. The flower of life relates directly to the initial moments of conception, and that is a good truth to imprint yourself upon. As you begin with, an egg that is going to become a human being, the sperm comes into it and it is fertilized. And the first thing that the egg does is it subdivides and then it subdivides again. And you end up having these membrane bubbles that cluster together. And when you get them clustered together in just the right way, that first initial spark of life creates the flower of life. And of all of the things that I talk about when people are like skeptical or wanting to discard the recipe or feeling like maybe it's only a partial recipe, like should I really learn about this? I want you to know it is innately valuable to know about the flower of life because it is imprinted in the first few moments of you coming into this world. That architecture of the cell membranes informs everything that you are right now. That's like the original seed crystal of who you are. And then all of the subsequent cells of your body proliferated and what is the word when individuated or became unique out of all of that. So the original cells that created that first perfect flower of life, those end up becoming your spinal column cells. And there is still like an empty space or a hollow space in the way that the bubbles of the cells fit together. That is like that center column of energy that goes up and down the center of your being. So these geometries, for lack of a better word, formfulnesses or polygons, these shapes bring you to life. Correct shapes bring you to life. Incorrect shapes make you die. If you want to know how come you don't get a successful pregnancy or conceive life every single time that people come together in intercourse, the answer is because it is not always shaped correctly. So only under very, very rare and specific circumstances, when the trajectory of consciousness and the biological matter comes together in exactly the right way, is it shaped well. And then it becomes a doorway for consciousness. Consciousness comes out of the world of abstraction and potential into the world of molecularism and manifestation. When you are doing stuff like the third stage of using your Merkaba for interdimensional travel or flying rainbow lasagneing, what you are doing is using your body and reshaping the polygonal structure of your body so that you become a doorway to other dimensions. Let me just drink a little bit of water here. So instead of thinking of the flying rainbow lasagna as an external doorway or a gateway, like here is the doorway, and then I walk on my legs, I'm going to walk through the doorway. You are the doorway. The oscillating dance of your DNA is creating shapes that are very tiny and that are these shapes of potential, not the right word. When you make those shapes, you are shaped in the right way. So you can do any time saying the word shape, formed the right way. And then it makes it possible for you to go through the frequency door, just like you have a lock and a key. And the key has to be shaped in just the right way. When the key is shaped the right way, it goes into the lock and then the whole entire door opens. When your DNA is shaped the right way, you become like a lock a key that can fit into the lock. I said it all wrong. And then you can open up the interdimensional doorway to go into a higher dimensional reality. So there's a bunch of things. You're not just escaping the garbage of this world. You are cleaning up this world. You are confronting it with your Cuisinart of truth, and it is responding to it. And also, you are shifting to optimum timelines when you go through these portal structures. And also what I have done, instead of thinking of it as like, oh, this doorway this is not so good. Find me the better timelines. Find me the better timelines. What I actually do, we need to give Cheeky some food, is I stay on one timeline and I reach out with my tendrils of attention into other timelines, and I bring that optimum energy back here to this timeline, and I optimize this timeline through those activities. I will reiterate that, but first we'll take a brief break. For understanding, guys, when I have to be a dog mom. Okay, so flying rainbow lasagna. When I do flying rainbow lasagna, instead of considering that I am like bouncing from timeline to timeline, like, oh, like Goldilocks, like this timeline's too hot, this timeline's too cold, this timeline is just right. No, what I'm mostly doing is staying on this timeline. And then I reach like, well, this timeline is great, but I just don't have blah, blah thing or blah, blah energy. But on that timeline, I have blah, blah thing or energy. I'm going to reach to that timeline and I'm going to scoop. I'm not going to take the thing or the energy, but I'm going to take the imprint, like the song. I'm not going to take the guitar, physical thing. I'm going to take the song, the idea from that version of me and bring it back here. And this is what real higher dimensional time travel is. When you are able to reach outward across multidimensionality, past and future and lateral versions of reality, and choosing the optimum patterns that are available in these different places and bringing back some of those inspirations. Like you can bring back a song, you can bring back a recipe, you can bring back a genetic structure. You do not bring back the guitar or the cake or the matter. You got it? You bring back the ideas. And then you integrate those ideas into this time structure. And all of that is hugely non-random. Like you have to be the greatest master. Because imagine you've already got a song going in this reality, but then you're gonna like like one of these Beastie Boys or whatever type of artists, like you're gonna take like a sample out of that reality, you put it into here, you're gonna sample that reality, put it in here. Like it's a lot because you have to make sure that the beats match, key matches, the music sounds good. Like it's actually really hard. Or if music isn't your thing, but maybe clothing and quilting is your thing, it's very, very hard to be like, you're gonna take a patch of one pattern or one fabric, and then you're gonna sew it onto your sweater over here. And that somehow you're gonna get the threads and everything to line up well, and then it's gonna fit around the clothing and fit on your body well. Like all of that is hard. All of that is very, very hard. So it takes an enormous amount of expertise, but this is what we are actually doing with the Flying Rainbow Lasagne interdimensional dance. So Flower of Life is the ideal structure that informs physicality, your body and your cells. But Flying Rainbow Lasagne is the structure that informs higher dimensional self, your self of time. And what you're trying to do is to optimize and integrate these two aspects of yourself. You want to optimize the structure of the water that's in your physical body, and you want to optimize the structure of your DNA. But you also need to optimize the structure of the cell membranes. All of these things end up making these beautiful 60-degree angles. So your cell membranes, when you first create that, first gestation, first conception, it's the cell membranes that create the shape that we know as the flower of life, like those interlocking circles or spheres. But as you are now a trillions of cells, multicellular creature, the thing that gives you structure in your body is not actually the lipids of your cells. It's actually the waters of your cytoplasm. So when you look at your body, you have cell membranes, and then there's stuff inside of your cells. And people want to think, oh, it's these fatty cell membranes. That's like the outside of the balloon that gives the balloon structure. But I'm like, nope, actually your cell membranes and the outside of the balloon, it's very, it's like wobbly. It's fat. It is kind of like Jello. They don't have a lot of structure to them. What actually gives your cells structure is the water that is inside of them. So now, instead of thinking that water has to be frozen like an ice cube or a snowflake in order for it to have structure, please comprehend that liquid water can have structure. It is the fourth phase of water, and it is water expressing consciousness, sentience, or holding information in it. So disorganized water does not have that level of coherence, which is almost a gel-like structure, but organized water does have coherence, does have this beautiful gel-like structure. So you, of course, want to ingest structured water, but also you have to do these different spiritual practices to be structured yourself. It's not, if it was enough to just drink some structured water, then you would be enlightened. We'd all be enlightened. If you lived here, you'd be home by now. Like that would be easy. No. Unfortunately, it's much harder and more involved than simply drinking structured water. But structuring the water that you drink and structuring the water that's in your body are synonymous activities. So you make structured water by placing the water in, purifying it, the correct carafe, having the correct exposure to minerals, keeping it away from bad stuff like 5G and Bluetooth, exposing it to good stuff like the energy of earth or the energy of a tree, and then allowing it to create those complex, micro swirls and the patterns that are flowing through it. Okay. You need to do the same thing in your body. You need to have the correct balance of minerals and salts in your body, right? And you also need to keep yourself away from 5G and Bluetooth and these disarrangement frequencies, including other people's bad thoughts, so that you're not disarranged. And you need to expose yourself to the frequencies that are actually going to arrange you correctly, like good music, being around crystals, the sound of beautiful bubbling brooks and running water, and trees, and photosynthesis, and beautiful puppies and kittens, and then it's fluid. Like once you are structured, it's not like, okay, you're structured and then like you're done. Just like you do the dishes, but it's not done for forever. It's just done for a little while. Maintaining Achieving your diamond body is an attainment. Maintaining it is another attainment, because you can achieve states of hyper organization, hyper inner self organization, but then it is difficult to maintain it. And maintaining it is a big part of the coherence that I talk about when I say coherence and longevity. You have a question over here. Mary Ellen says, is this also for astral travel? Okay, so you would definitely want to create your Merkaba to protect yourself for any type of astral travel. Flying Rainbow Lasagne is different than astral travel. Astral travel is thought form travel. And most humans do thought form travel by envisioning that they have a physical body, like this body, and they go to physical places, this place. But when I do Flying Rainbow Lasagne, I do not envision that I have a physical body like my present one-faced, two-armed, two-legged body. I have a different type of body, I have a time body. And I do not consider that I'm in my physical space here, or like sitting on my front porch or sitting in my garden. I am in a time space that is a higher dimensional space. So my experience of embodying the Flying Rainbow Lasagne and doing the Flying Rainbow Lasagne dance is really, really different than most people's definition and experience of what the astral plane is. I would also go further to say that the astral plane is a place of illusion and of deceit and of non-exact math, or math that doesn't add up. It's a crazy cuckoo bananas nonsense world. And the higher dimensional world that I dance in when I do my Flying Rainbow Lasagne dance is very regular, very measured. Measurements are correct. It's like patterns that you see here, like very predictable, correct, right and wrong, clear boundaries of what is happening. Sets of rules. There are very clear rules in what I'm doing. So there's only a certain common ground, but not total common ground. When I'm going to do my Flying Rainbow Lasagne, the first thing I do is I eat plenty of sunlight. I have real breakfast, a little toast, a little something. I eat real sunlight. You got to jazz yourself up and be full of light to be able to do this, okay? Then what I do is I envision the Merkaba around myself. And I do my Merkaba exercises as just general hygiene, being in the world, but I definitely do it before I'm going to do some Flying Rainbow Lasagne, fancy interdimensional time dancing, okay? And the basics of what I do are to intend to dance good patterns, positive life-affirming events, and go towards life-affirming events with my dance as I'm propelling myself through time. and to reflect away things that create accidents or diseases or unintended consequences or malevolencies or mistakes or hijacking or anything that's non-ideal. And then I also, am receptive to, which is the downward facing pyramid, assistance from myself in the future as a super genius or God, the fabric of space time, larger levels of divine intelligence and genius, like things that hold me in my life that are positive, larger, and benevolent, and to be open to dealer's choice, chef's choice, things that are bigger than I can imagine, and then make an amalgamation of the two. Like that's the basics of what I do with Merkaba. But of course, I talked about how you can do specifics with Merkaba. But when I do my Flying Rainbow Lasagne dance, like if you want to okay, if you want to make something happen with Flying Rainbow Lasagne, the truth is I don't try to make something happen. I know. So this becomes very different. With the Merkaba, I did tell you, you can use it for wish making. You manifest like some ice cream or a chocolate bar. But I do not try to fly rainbow lasagna and dance a chocolate bar into being, although it has happened. And I have made many wonderful things. I do not sit down and make like a laundry list. Like I want one of these and one of these and one of these. Now I'm going to dance. I dance as an expression of truth in the world, as like a force of truth and as a force of justice. And as part of that, of course, I express my own desires into the world. Like, I want ice cream and I want chocolate. But what I really want is justice and well orchestrated worlds where people get what they deserve and evil is punished or eradicated. What I really want is a well organized world with rules that make sense and that are applied fairly. So when I do my Flying Rainbow Lasagna dance, that is what I'm doing. I'm both 90-degree angle propelling myself through these different time structures, but also I am arranging time into those formats. So if there is not a road for me to drive or fly upon, if the time structure does not exist there of what I desire, I make it be there. I pave the road. And that is what you can do with your consciousness. And the Merkaba exists as a foundational protection because anybody can make a mistake or get distracted or something comes along and be like, wait, I thought I was paving the road of divine perfection. And like, here I've screwed everything up. So you have to make sure that you have your Merkaba flowing so that way, if you make a mistake, you are able to fix it. And also, this is why I do paginations and page breaks throughout my Flying Rainbow Lasagna expression and dance. Like I do a dance that like begin here, dance, 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 and then page break. And that's because that part came out good. And when something comes out good, you're like, okay, lock that layer. Like that looks good. Don't mess it up. And then from the end of the one comes the beginning of the next, dance, 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 dance. Let's say here I do pretty good, but then I make some things that are a mistake. At least this mistake over here is not going to propagate all the way back through all of these other dances that I did. It's going to stop right here. And I will just have a mistake in this select segment of time and I can fix it. And what I do is I do the paperwork. Well, I repaginate. So I'm like, oh, like that part didn't do correctly at all. And I can tell because my hand vortexes don't come together perfectly. Like if things work perfectly, the events interlock perfectly. But if they do not work perfectly, then my hands do not come together perfectly. And I'm like, okay, that didn't work. Let's do the paperwork again, do the calculations again. And then now let's see if we can get those vortexes to come together. That is what you do. And then out of the end of one becomes the beginning of the next. So all of this is like very intuitively developed, but I have codified it now because I've been doing it for over 20 years. But you have to have protection when you're doing Flying Rainbow Lasagna time acrobatics. And you also have to have ways to be able to fix your mistakes. Protect yourself and time and fix things because you're really doing stuff with time. So, if I make a painting here in my art studio, if it doesn't come out that great, it's like, well, okay, great. Like you wasted some paper or you wasted some time or whatever. like, you did not do a good job. But if I make a mistake in my Flying Rainbow Lasagna dance, like maybe I really screw up the structure of time or some aspect of how reality, and events are supposed to come together. And that can affect a lot of people's lives. It's much more than just whatever wasting a canvas or wasting some blue paint or something like that. So I'm very hyper responsible and I want to make sure that when I am doing my self-expression and self-exploration, that I am not messing things up, and not for myself in the future and not for other people in the future. So that's a lot of what the Merkaba is used for when you're in your Flying Rainbow Lasagna exploratory levels of creation. But when you're doing Flying Rainbow Lasagna, so the key point is you're doing similar levels of extremely advanced time acrobatics powered by the shift in your perception. This is also why I talk about time travel of the Merkaba and the time travel of Flying Rainbow Lasagna as being based in perception. And from the outside observer, they might not see your physical body moving, although you are very much interdimensionally accessing different places in time. So now we're getting to the end of class. My brain is a little tired and I feel like telling stories. Story time, gather around, children. So way back when I lived in Woodstock, there was a big outdoor backyard in the apartments that I lived in. And I told my friend, yeah, come on by, whatever, we're gonna hang out or whatever. Come meet me, I'll be in the backyard. And I was sitting outside of my lawn chair and I was sitting in my cross-legged Merkaba position. And I was totally doing the Merkaba and traveling interdimensionally. And which is what I do when I'm waiting for my friends. And my friend came on by, came out of the hallway, looked out the backyard, looked all around, looked directly at me, did not see me or register that I was there at all, and then turned around and proceeded to leave. And I had to kind of stop what I was doing, get up out of my chair and be like, oh, hey, wait, man, I'm right here. All right. So this is what I'm talking about. When you are in these moments of higher dimensional flights through time, you are not occupying a shared reality to people that are moving at a slower or different rate through time. They might not see you or know that you're there. You might see them. They might not see you. You're not in the same levels of reality. And your rational mind and your linear mind are not prepared to comprehend this. And also, linear language is not adequate to be able to talk about these different things. When you're doing Flying Rainbow Lasagna, you might very well be outside of time and doing these oscillations and jumping and reaching all across time. But someone with just flesh perception and flesh eyes would look at you and be like, well, that person is rolling around on the floor. I don't know anything more than that. They would not be able to see and sense what you're doing, much less to sense the complex calibrations and calculations that are happening on a subcellular or subtle body level. So just be aware of that. Okay, there's questions over here, and then I'll do more. I think questions first, then talk more. Okay. So Kim Rose, thank you for being here. Says, is it possible to do Flying Rainbow Lasagna effectively if one takes marijuana or other drugs first? I have a friend that takes shrooms and then sees all this sacred geometry and travels interdimensional. So time for my talk, real talk, kids, because I'm not a square, totally not a square. And I think that tripping is fine and would encourage people to do it in the right way. But over the past 5 years, I won't even get my little piece of paper, but I always hold up that piece of paper. There's a lot of bad stuff going on in our world right now. Synthetic telepathy, satellites, 5G, mental control grids, government propagandas, psyops, frequency garbage. It is not only if you're going to think about tripping as going out of body, it's going swimming in the ocean. The ocean is not only polluted and full of garbage, but it is full of sharks. Dangerous garbage is the ocean of consciousness right now. So I would say, even if tripping on some kind of mushrooms or something like that was something that you should be doing, you should not be doing it right now because there is not a good, safe way to do that. So everybody's different. My brain should not take mushrooms because I have epilepsy as part of the brain damage that, it's my origins of walking in here. I have to treat my brain like very nicely. I feel like nice brain, not give it a bunch of whatever overstimulation. I also have to be very careful with caffeine and other things like that too. So other people can take caffeine and mushrooms and all sorts of things, and you'll be fine. But not everybody can. You have to get to know your individual biochemistry. So that's another thing. It's not the best time to be exploring the fragility of your individual biochemistry. Um, but let's say in a perfect world, or in the world before all of this nanotechnology and other things that came along, um, you can see more shapes and polygons through molecular helpers. But the quality of the information that you get is not the same from every molecular helper. So some molecules will give you accurate information, accurate harmonics. When you take some of those molecules, they will bring you to a place, a vista in time, that when you look, you'll be like, this looks exactly like Aurora's painting. Exactly. And then you'll know that you're in the real place and not in a fake, miscalibrated place, right? And that would be good. But some molecules bring you to a time vista that is not well calibrated and it's fake. So, okay, now I have to tell you this story about me. I will not get in trouble in any way by telling you this story. So, I have a friend, and I take CBD, which is like the non-psychoactive aspect of cannabis. I also take THC as well. Like, I take all the things that are in cannabis too, but I take them in a way that is like to regulate my brain, not necessarily like as recreational people take cannabis in a way to like destabilize their brain. So, anyway, friend of mine knew that I took CBD, and she was like, I'm going to send you a bunch of CBD products from this guy that I like. And I'm like, super. And so she sent me what were supposed to be like all CBD tinctures and stuff like that. And there was this one chocolate bar that I ate a bunch of it thinking that it was CBD, and these things were not labeled. And then I looked at it and I read things more carefully. And I'm like, oh, this was not CBD at all. And then I read it and I'm like, I don't know what this stuff was. So this is like, of course, like maybe even 3 years ago at this point. So I was very worried about my brain and whether I would be okay. But the point that I bring this up as is to make the shapes and the colors that I saw were not well calibrated. And the stuff that was in that chocolate bar, not only was it not CBD, but there was some synthetic molecular component where I saw shapes that were kind of like this, but not this. And it was a very, very strange experience that I had that, oh, it was totally not consensual, not something that I wanted to experience. But once I was experiencing it and I analyzed it, I was like, okay, like I'm just going to try to learn as much as I can from this. People are taking bad stuff that I call synapse glue because that stuff did not make my brain feel free. It did not give me greater levels of divine connection or insight or any of the things that I saw 10 years ago or any of those things in better times when there was less 5G and stuff like that. And it felt like a clamp down, like a helmet on my head, not something that was expanding me at all. And then the shapes that I saw were fake shapes. And I was kind of like, I was watching the whole thing and I was like, oh, like, this is what people are getting when they're tripping. Like, this is terrible. This is terrible. So, okay, caught now. So you gather around, children, and listen to grandmother Aurora's tips for tripping. Okay. So when you're tripping on real molecules that are not these fake industrially synthetic compound crapola crap that they put in these chocolate bars, but when you take real stuff, you get real insights that are profound and like a sledgehammer to your head. You're like, kapow. That's the truth. It is incontrovertible. There's no question that it's the truth. You're like, that is the MF truth of the world. And you can't even put it into words. You're like, that is true. That is true. And it's like sledgehammer after sledgehammer, like true, 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 true. And you're like, oh, all this stuff is true. It's like that. There's no question when information comes to you, whether it's truthful or not. And also things, again, are not verbalized. So a concept or a polygon or a shape might present itself. Like here's one of my little cutouts that I'm working on from my fabric projects. Like here's a shape and it'll show itself to you. And you will look at it and you'll just be like, wow, that's a weird shape. Like it's purple and yellow. you will be like, that's the shape of truth. And it means this, and this. And I know exactly what I'm looking at. Like when I looked at the fake shapes that weren't well calibrated from the fake ass chocolate that that lady sent me, I was like, these shapes mean nothing. It's like babbling, like gobbledygook, blah, 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 blah. It didn't mean anything. Like when a person who doesn't speak English pretends to speak English and they are just making nonsense sounds, that was the equivalent. So you guys have to recognize that in this world, caveat emptor, you have to be so self-protective, not only because it's a garbage frequency world and there are dangerous sharks and imposters on the astral world, but also the molecules that are being presented to you for ingestion are not very good. A lot of them are very bad. So yeah, I've got nothing off of that chocolate, and I'm happy that I didn't have, like seizures or anything as a result, but I would never take it again. And I found out exactly how crappy a lot of these things are. So yeah, avoid those things. Avoid what is Delta 8 and Delta 9. I have taken those as well. They are not synthetic, but they are laboratory chemical outgrowth related to the natural occurring chemicals that are in hemp. And they made a lot of Delta 9 stuff because you can send it through the mail. And then as soon as you apply heat to it, it becomes like the regular THC. But that stuff that I tried that was Delta 9, also synapse glue. So the only way I can describe that is gather round children, and I will tell you of the golden days of weed. Way back in the original days, before this stuff was all genetically modified, like when you smoked herb, you really got high and you really got inner visions. Like, yeah, you really saw stuff. I just come to my retreats, I'll tell you everything. But you know what? I am very choosy. I'm totally a pot snob. I grow my own stuff and I pretty much only ingest my own stuff. And if I don't have enough out of my own garden, I'm extremely selective about where I will purchase it commercially to get my stuff, because the qualities of the molecule really are wildly affected by the people who are making it, handling it, touching it, and processing it. So there's just no comparison to homemade stuff versus stuff that is available in dispensaries. And it's always better also if you can't grow it yourself. Like find a friend who grew extra and get some from them. But bringing this up because um, the things that I used to experience when I would smoke marijuana, that was from 15 years ago, completely different experience. Like what they have done in the ways that they cultivate it, the chemicals that they put on it, and the ways that they have bred the plant have changed it completely. Uh, Best weed I ever smoked was like a Vermeer. If you know that painter, he painted beautiful light that came across, like it might be like a picture of a milk jug and three oranges, and it's just the quality of the light falling upon those ordinary objects made the painting beautiful. Vermeer is also well known for like the girl with the pearl earrings, just like this, just wearing a pearl earring. That was the best. It was like so subtle and so amazing. And also the weed back then, it gave you ideas. You would be like, this is amazing. Like, I just thought of this. I've never thought of that before. Or you would have the inspiration to paint a painting. Like, it was amazing stuff. And what is available now commercially, when I say synapse glue, is it blocks up people's neurotransmitters, like kind of coats the cell membrane and makes you feel dead and stupid in your brain instead of alive and highly intelligent. And that is all on purpose. And way back in the day when I used to, be like a trimmer on farms and whatever, and that was like more than 10 years ago, we used to talk about like, yeah, like maybe one day the government will make this stuff legal and then everybody could have it. And we talked like maybe they would crap it up. That was what they did. That was exactly what they did. They made this stuff legal, but then they crapped it up so that the stuff that you get is nothing like what we used to get. And that's why I'm so selective of growing my own stuff and only taking my own products, because I think that it's something you have to protect your brain from. I do supplement with a couple of companies that I think are well done and that they're not adulterating their stuff. And it's very, very good ingredients. If you want to know the one that I currently like, it's called Rose, and they're in Los Angeles. And they have excellent products and excellent ingredients, but mostly all this Delta 9 stuff, like throw it out the window. I wouldn't even put that stuff on my skin. Like I wouldn't even put it on as like, a moisturizer after my bath. I'm like, look, like this stuff is terrible. And yeah, so I have to be here as the grandma of weed to tell you what things are supposed to be like from back in the good old days, because most of you don't even know and have nothing to compare it to. All of that fun trips down memory lane aside, when you take stuff that is adulterated or bogus, you will not be getting true inner vision. And if you don't have a baseline for comparison, you might be easily fooled. You also might make yourself very vulnerable to negative entities, fragments, and hijackers by making your aura open by taking these things. And it's not advised. And then also, one more thing with that chocolate bar. My friend, I think, is a good person, but she had gotten it from this guy that was making these products. He was not a good person. And I could also tell not only was the quality of stuff that was in the chocolates like synthetic and not good, and my brain was not happy, but I could tell the person who made it and sold it, that company, they were not a good company. So you have to understand that cannabis and these molecules, these are like crystals. Crystals take on an imprint of the information that they're exposed to. If you have someone who's a bad person who's growing your cannabis for you or making your gummies for you, like they will put crappy energy into your cannabis or into your gummies, and then you will feel crappy when you take their gummies. It's totally molecular frequency stuff. Don't, expose yourself to stuff that is badly created. And then also it might be dangerous for you to expose yourself interdimensionally. Okay, so that's I think that's enough of a lecture there, but of course I would love to tell you all about I have so many great stories from my years trimming on the farm. Mary Ellen says, okay, if we don't take our bodies, why are we focusing on the body? Because it's the technology we need to blast off. We do take our bodies, but we don't take our bodies in this. So that's important to know. Your body is essential real estate. Your body in your moment of ascension. Oh, thank you, Joyce. Good to see you. Thank you for being here. When you have your moment of ascension, your body will still be in time, and it will be an important moment of real estate that you will access evermore. Really important stuff. In fact, just know that in that moment of ascension, whatever you've got going on is going to be pretty important stuff, like where you are, who is around you, what you're experiencing, even what you're wearing. Like that's going to be a pretty important moment. But you can't orchestrate it, because otherwise you're going to be like, oh, like, well, I hope I don't ascend today. Like I'm wearing my worst underwear and I don't want to wear this bad pair of underwear for eternity. That's not what we're going to do. So don't think about it in those terms. All right. Different, but I'm being intentionally hilarious. So we do take our bodies, but your body changes shape and changes form and remains highly relevant. And there are other things that remain highly relevant too, like your love for your dog or your cat or your children. Love-based relationships or houseplants have big impact. Mary Ellen says, I thought you said we couldn't take our bodies. No, we did. Well, and all we, of course we take our bodies. Like now, okay. And when you say take, that implies like you're going somewhere, like you're going on vacation, but you're not going from point A to point B. Like, how did we get here? We came here through an interdimensional portal from Atlantis. We did not fly from point A to point B. In order to achieve freedom or transcendence, similarly, we have to go through portals. And those portals and the activity of doing so is going to relate to our experiences in Atlantis and other places too. When we go through a portal, you exit a reality structure and then you enter a new reality structure, but you are still in reality. When we do my Flying Rainbow Lasagne dance on Tuesday mornings, we exit a reality structure, dance, and then enter a new reality structure. But we do re-enter a reality structure. At a certain point, you will start to dance and you will simply dance, dance, dance and never stop and just continue dancing eternally and never re-enter the material reality structure. But you're not ready for that yet. So that's like saying we are like surfers and we are going out in the ocean, paddle out, paddle out, paddle out, do your surfing, have a bunch of fun, and then come back and then see how all of your time surfing activities have changed time from the embedded in reality viewpoint. But at a certain point, you will paddle out for Flying Rainbow Lasagne surfing, and you will not come back to shore. And you will live more like a dolphin, continually flying or surfing around in the waves of time. And that's what my life is like as Aurora, the higher dimensional collective self state. Okay. So I already did the commonalities of snowflakes and carbon atoms, the basis of physical life, which is hexagonal, and also trying to get across the sense to you that although you might be in a very imperfect world and you might be experiencing a very imperfect body, your body is really intended to be a perfect vehicle and a vehicle for freedom. And people want to escape from this world because they see that the world is flawed, but also because they see their bodies are flawed. And they think that the way to achieve a perfected body is by releasing the inherently flawed flesh. And I am here to tell you that your flesh is not inherently flawed. That's also part of that whole Jesus thing, like that you're inherently sinful and original sin and just being in the world is a sin. And also the Gnostic Essenes in the sense of matter being imprisoned as the definition of what it is, and that there's no way to be free in matter. No, 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 no. So here's what is true. Matter is a wonderful gift. Matter has the root word mother and is just like your mother and the womb, a place where you gestate consciousness. It is not meant to be a prison at all. And your body, although it is flawed right now, is not inherently flawed. Matter and having a physical body is meant to be a miracle and a wonderful gift. And through Flying Rainbow Lasagne, you can restore your body to that miraculous state and receive it as a gift. But when you do that, you will not want to live in a flawed garbage world. You will be like, this place is screwed up, and I have the Flying Rainbow Lasagne, a capacity to clean things up. You're gonna want to clean stuff up. And you will be cleaning up all of the timelines. So again, you're not going to go from this timeline is dirty, I'm going to fly over here to this timeline where it's nice and clean and leave the dirty timeline behind. No, no, that's called sweeping things under the cosmic carpet. You're going to clean up this timeline over here, and you're going to clean up this timeline over here, and you're going to clean up this timeline over here and be on this timeline. Got it? Now you're getting it. And that is important stuff because otherwise all this evil junk would be like, okay, great. Like, I'm just going to stay over here. Evil junk, you lasagnas fly to the better lands over here. And I'm just going to live as evil junk on the periphery. No, you're actually going to clean up the evil junk from the periphery and from the middles and from the ups and the downs. Like, there will not be evil junk anywhere. It's very, very big change in how you do this. Okay. It's just big because otherwise, you know why? I have to rant on this. Because otherwise, if I just invented Flying Rainbow Lasagne as like a horse and a wagon, you're like, great. Like, these guys are all on foot and you have a horse and a wagon, so you can outrun them. So that means you can continually run away from the garbage people that are gross and do bad things. And then at a certain point, they'll be like, hey, I think I'll invent the horse and the wagon, and then I can chase after you and spew more garbage at you. And then you're going to be like, oh, I thought this Flying Rainbow Lasagne was the highest form of new technology to get me away from my enemies. I guess I'll have to invent the next new form of technology and run away from them again. Like, do you understand? Like, we have run away from these things in my face so many times. And these things are always like, oh, don't run away from me. I want to make your life effing miserable. Come back so I can make your life miserable. You have to confront those things. So the Flying Rainbow Lasagne is like this Cuisinart of truth that you use to be able to confront this garbage stuff, not just to run away from it. But as I mentioned, I don't want you to think that it's your job to scrub the entire cosmic toilet or to endanger yourself by trying to take off too much of the corruption to clean it up. Please take a sensible amount of corruption in order to respond to it and confront it and to clean it up so that it is not there. And this is also why many lasagnas are very positive, both in the sense of creating many different nodes of unpredictability or moments where something miraculous can happen that was not expected, and also in terms of being a Cuisinart of truth or a force of continued cleaning things up, because there's definitely a lot of garbage and a lot of things that need to be cleaned up. So the transformation into your diamond body is a metamorphosis or state change. And that's just like when you have like water and you add heat to it, then the water becomes steam. Like it didn't disappear, it turned into steam. And you will also have a state change. But from the perspective of like, see as suckers, like if you have a state change, you leave behind the others, then they'll all be like, oh, there once upon a time there was a person, he was here, and then one day he evaporated into a cloud of steam and he's not here anymore. Like, we're not going to be doing that because everybody's going to evaporate into a cloud of steam. Got it? Total state change. Going to have the whole entire planet, including dogs and squirrels, blades of grass, that are going to metamorphose and have a state change. Big on the paintbrush of your mind, because this is what you're using to be able to either envision the Merkaba shape around you or the Flying Rainbow Lasagne shape around you. Oh, and one more thing. This is what I had to tell you. In this shape, these edges over here are interdimensional doorways and portals. So this is how energy goes around this shape. Red, which is the layer of physical, has connective areas. I'm over here, I'm on the outside, and then without picking up my pen, I can go right over here and I'm on the inside. But let's look at an area like yellow. It's very clear. Here, I'm going on yellow, and then look at that. I reached the edge of the Grand Canyon. Where in the world do I go? Because the next place that I have to get to from here is all the way down here. There is a gulf. I have to jump across here. That is the interdimensional jump. There is a doorway here. There's an interdimensional doorway. And you have to go through that doorway, go interdimensional, and then come out the other side, and that brings you to here. You don't actually fly across here like with wings or a spaceship. That is the higher dimensional place that you are going through when you fold the fabric of space-time. And then, so you're going here, outside, 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 go through a portal, and then your energy comes here, reassembles here, and goes outside, 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 outside. Then you go through a portal and jump up here, and then you go across, outside, 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 go through a portal, jump through, and then you go over to here. So when you do my dance with me, you're going through portals. You guys like can't really see, you don't have the perspective, don't really know where you are and what you're doing. And your linear mind thinks flat, and you think like, oh, I'm over here, and then I'm driving my car and I make left turns and right turns, and then I end up over here. No, what's happening is you go through a portal. You're going along, going along, going along. And then I say, now dive through the portal. You dive through the portal, and then you end up on this area of reality over here. And then you swim, float, fly, figure eight, and you go, and then dive through the portal, and you come through over here. So you have to do a lot of recalibrating your expectation of what transiting is, or what movement is, or what space is, in order to know what you're doing. Like when I would encourage you, like when you're doing Flying Rainbow Lasagne, like it's a feeling state. You want to embody the feeling of what you are doing. But also you should know intellectually, just like when you have a real trip, you don't have to have like an explanation. Like you just know what this is all about. You know where you're going. Like, you know, like, am I diving through a portal? What type of a portal? Where, what direction? What is the meaning of this? What is the significance of this? that is what you just know. So this is also why I'm a facilitator, because not everybody has their light body operational, not everybody has their senses operational. So I can take you out on the bunny slopes and give you a feeling of what this feels like even before you're calibrated to be able to do it on your own. And that's how you get better. And it's also how you have an opportunity to learn and grow before the big day. Not that it's going to be like a day or whatever, like I joke about whether you're wearing your best outfit or underwear on that day. But let's just say there will be a moment when it's like, dun, 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 okay, this is the moment. You are now being flooded with light, and the light will not stop. And you are going to have to learn how to paddle out, swim, get on your surfboard, and surf on these, patterns of light, and then keep going and don't stop. And so what I am doing is giving humanity a chance by making it possible for you to do these smaller educational little journeys where you go out and then you come back. Go out, you do a little bit of stuff in time, and then you come back and you figure out the feelings and you figure out the patterns and you get better. It's very merciful because it's really hard. If I was just like, here's your first day, sit down in front of a piano and please play a perfect symphony, you'd be like, Aurora, like I don't know how to do this. That's what it would be the equivalent. So that's why I'm like, guys, let's practice for many years before it's the day of the piano recital. And let's practice Mary Had a Little Lamb. And let's practice Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. And let's practice and learn what these harmonic patterns are. And then when it's the day of the piano recital, you will all be ready. Okay, good. So I'm feeling like I'm moving into the home stretch here. I want to make sure that I got all of the important stuff. Leap of consciousness, the leap from either a third dimensional viewpoint into a fourth dimensional higher viewpoint of time, or a second dimensional viewpoint into a third dimensional viewpoint. These are always a leap of consciousness. So in order to journey your interdimensional selves, that's terrible grammar, but in order to do this non-clank-clank based interdimensional journeying, what you have to do is make a leap of consciousness. It is about rearranging your perception and your cognition. And when you do that, you experience the matter differently. When you reshape yourself, you go through the frequency door. I have a beautiful song about that. That's called Symphony of Life. And I did all of that good stuff. Good. So the final thing is what it is to God as a verb. Godding as a verb means that you take the potential of the seed of your consciousness that you've cultivated and put it into the vibrating field of pure potential. And the seed is your pineal gland, but it's also the concept that you fertilize in yourself and in your pineal gland. And the field of pure potential where you plant the seed is the vibrating ocean of awareness. And when you do that, so you have to do Merkaba in order to protect your creation from adulteration or hijacking, to make sure that your seed stays pristine and nothing else is going to come along and, take it and, mush it or make it not as beautiful as it is. It grows and it blooms into reality. And then, of course, you get to live in and experience your reality. So if you guys want to know, like, what happens? Where do you go? What do? You make reality. It blooms. You make a seed, you plant the seed, it blooms into reality. You inhabit the reality. I know I gave a long teaching here for several hours, but if I could boil it down, it is that you are not exiting reality, which is what death is. Death and the supposed goodness of afterlife is exiting reality. But what you are actually doing is staying in reality. You create a seed that is potentials or are potentials of the future, and you plant that seed in the vibrating mind of God. And then it blooms into reality and you experience that reality. That is what you're really doing with metamorphose, state change, and transformation and movement through time. These things are all synonymous. Very, very difficult and different than thinking about moving from point A to point B. Like when you're doing the thing that I'm talking about, you have to be thinking about your feeling state and your consciousness and your environment and all the other organisms all around you. Like you're not just doing this in a vacuum or a contextless void. You do this with the world. Different than when people think about driving from point A to point B. The lower dimensional linear viewpoint is just like, I don't care about point A or point B or the space in between there. I just want to get to where I'm going. Like I am just trying to achieve an objective. And all of these things that I'm telling you about traveling interdimensionally, creating roads of time, being reciprocal and respectful in how you organize and relate to time, is that time is alive and you shouldn't just go places randomly, and you shouldn't just think that you can drive from point A to point B and all the points in between without them having an opinion or feeling something about all of this. You have to consider all of that. And considering and learning about all of that is part of the necessary self-cultivation so that you can travel interdimensionally. Because otherwise you would bring all of your boorish behavior and ill manners to all of these other places, and they would all clutch their pearls when you arrive and possibly drop their opera glasses at your rudeness. Michael, it sounds like you're going out to do your sun gazing. Thank you very much for being in class, and we will complete very soon, because the other thing that I wanted to get is the very, very end of this, where I talk about the inner sun. Um, um, of course, you want to protect your creation from fragmented or unevolved consciousnesses or things that need healing or that need to be resolved, or putis or stuff like that. But also your own inner sun, just the singularity that is deep inside of you, is where you get the energy to be able to pave the road of time, propel yourself through time, create new time structures. So when you get these levels of self-cultivation and empowerment, where you can travel multidimensionally and where you can access all these different layers of time, you also concurrently experience the inner sun that is feeding you or illuminating you or nourishing you on all of these journeys. Because otherwise you'd be like, oh, like, I'm so hungry, I'm so thirsty. Like, are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? I'm hungry, I'm thirsty, I need toilet. But no, what is happening when you're able to do these journeys is that like you are nourished by the inner sun. So this is where your energy, your nourishment, your food, your guidance, your friendship, your awareness, it all comes from there, and then helps you to know where you need to be going. So you're not like, oh, I'm hungry, I'm thirsty, let me go fly to another planet where I can finally, whatever, get some food and drink or get something from the people there. You have actually everything that you need. You carry it within. It's a very, very different way of thinking about travel. It is a mental form of travel, but it is not travel from point to point. And so we're moving into consciousness-based travel. And also when you have the origin of self-sustenance inside of yourself, or a well of self-sustenance inside of yourself, you're not motivated in the same way that the lower dimensional self state and the linear self is motivated. Because a lot of traveling in the linear world is motivated by the need for commerce, which is like, I'm hungry and thirsty, I need stuff. That guy's got stuff. I think I'm either going to go over there and buy it or take it from him. And that is what motivates people to do stuff. So if you're looking at interdimensional travel and you're like, oh, I think I'd like to go to someone else's planet and steal their diamonds and then bring them back here and then sell them as fabulous rings, that's not the right motivation. And also, you don't go there to get stuff, but you do go there to get the ideas about stuff. So you could go to another place and not get diamonds, but you could get ideas about diamonds and then bring those ideas back here. And really, once you start to think about that, then you start to recognize that concepts are incredibly valuable. And when I traveled interdimensionally and I came here as Aurora, concepts are what I was able to bring with me. Like I clearly did not come with a brick of gold that I brought to, some jewelry shop to sell it. And I always joke because there's that movie called The Man Who Fell to Earth from David Bowie. And when he came here as an interdimensional fictional character in that movie, he came with like a bunch of gold wedding rings and he could bring them to the pawn shop and sell them so he could have some money when he got here in the world. And I did not do that. So I came here into the world and I'm like, I don't have anything to sell, just a bunch of priceless ideas. And no one's really interested in buying priceless ideas around here. So yeah, no, I'm joking and being hilarious. But that was a real challenge. So yeah, no, when I came here, I did not bring artifacts with me. So again, to really drive this point home, you're not going to find clank clank metal spaceships from the highest levels of civilized society. And also, when these higher dimensional civilized visitors come here, they're not going to bring artifacts with them. You can bring a song, but you're not going to bring the guitar. You can bring a recipe, but you're not going to bring like the actual food, the actual cookies. So then you have to find some way to translate the potentials of either a recipe, a math formula, or some form of higher dimensional genius into what the people of this time and place can see and perceive and value. And that is also a very difficult thing to do. Don Juan, Mary Ellen says, Don Juan said, you can sue in a chair and travel interdimensionally. It is priceless. Yes, you probably mean sit in a chair. That is exactly what I'm talking about. And it's exactly what I do. Yep, just a little to sit in a chair and travel interdimensionally. So I have a wonderful little lawn chair that my friend made a rainbow seat cover for. And that is totally my interdimensional chair traveling. So a lot of the time, of course, I roll on the floor on my mat over here, but maybe I'm tired after a long day and I will sit in my chair with my headphones on and totally travel interdimensionally. And I would really encourage people to do that. And again, like if dancing is too much, if you don't have good mobility, if you have back injuries or whatever, you can do the lasagna dance from a seated position. And I would encourage you to do so. And my basic journey for people who don't know me that well is because also, I had a lot of neurological and brain damage coming into this body and then other injuries subsequent to that. It took me a long time. Initially, I started dancing and I would just dance kind of like with my torso and my hands and my arms, but, sitting. And then I got my lawn chair and I would kind of dance with my toes a little bit, moving like this, but mostly with my hands and my torso. And after dancing for many, many years, one day I was just like, I just wanted like kind of like jump out of my chair. Like I was so like expanding so much. Yeah, I just kind of like jumped out of the chair, but I didn't jump onto my feet. I kind of like rolled on the ground. And that's how I've been dancing for many years. So I always put down my dance mat like this. And the way that you go through an interdimensional portal, my style, do not walk through like walking through a doorway. You dive through. So you kind of roll through, you dive through with your shoulder, roll through and come out the other side. Yeah. So practice drinking the light of the inner sun because that is one of the practices that will help you to be able to create your vehicle for interdimensional travel. Also, you're the bus. You're not going to miss the bus, but don't wait around or be silly about things because you don't have for forever. That's fine line we walk between those two distinctions. Sometimes people are like, oh my God, I have to ascend. Am I ready? Can I do it now? And I'd be like, you have as much time as you need, but also don't waste time. Like, don't be silly. Don't be an idiot. So you have as much time as you need to be able to cultivate yourself to be ready for the day, for the moment when you will set off on this eternal dance and never stop dancing. Until you're at that level, what you need to do is dance and practice and keep on cultivating yourself and getting better with each of your efforts and keep on adding to each time you dance to the layers of your dance. All right, you just asked a question. It's going to take so long for me to answer. It's the end of class, though. Mary Ellen says, are the vaxxed going also? Then Mary Ellen says, you're in great shape. I am in good shape. And I dance and I exercise all the time. Okay, so your question about whether the people who did the different subcutaneous pollutions are going to come. Again, this is a very, very long and involved answer because it is not a one-size-fits-all solution. Some people took one injection. Some people took every injection and every booster. Of the people who took one injection, some people took it under torture, threat of coercion, or were held down and forcibly forced to experience it. Those people have a different fate than the people who gladly, gleefully signed up for it, embraced it, and chose to align with it, and then chose to get subsequent boosters or other things like that. All those people do not have the same destination. And they don't have the same destination as me. I'm a person who never got any of these proboscis stuck into my body and never had anything stuck up my nose. And I do not have the same fate as the people who did. But almost all people in our world have been subjected to the horrible effluvia of those who did get proboscis stuck into them, none of which is fair. And my Cuisinart of truth is spinning very fast, but I don't want to have to get inundated by all of the lies and false light of all the people that chose to get proboscis inside of them. And also people that chose to get proboscis inside of them, especially the ones that got 7, 8, 9, or however infinite number of operating system upgrades, have been horrendously assaulting the rest of us and horrendously inhibiting the natural ascension process. And they are making the bus go even slower or arrive even later than it would have arrived otherwise. And they are not welcome in many ways in the world that I'm trying to create. They are like so ignorant. They don't even know, they're ignorant of how erroneous they are. And we can't have people like that around because they will make bad music and continue to make bad music. So the answer is like, no, they won't be going with us. There are some people that are in this class that might have had one injection. And I always want you to know that I don't, lump you in with, generalize you with the rest of the population. People that have had the injection can restore themselves with an enormous amount of effort to their own divine connection, true sense of self, true mission and purpose in life. And I try to help people to do that. But it's like you're making the mountain even harder to climb. Like you're making the ascension mountain even harder to climb for yourself with every injection that happens, as each one is a greater and greater level of assault on DNA. So I won't make a pronouncement like if you took that injection that you can't make your ascension or anything like that, but I will say like you have made it even harder and worse and hurt other people around you too. Mary Ellen says, me either, nothing, never. Okay, part of the delay. Oh, it's completely a huge part of the delay and misery. We were supposed to ascend 5 years ago. And I don't even have the energy to be able to talk about this extreme disappointment. But let's just say that we are more than 5 years off track. And that is a huge amount of time. And you can't be like, oh, in the course of billions of years, what's 5 years here and there? Actually, in terms of ascension and the accuracy of our planet and our consciousnesses, 5 years is enormously off track. It is like 5 million miles off track. It is very, very bad to be this far off track. So everybody who did injections hurt everyone because everybody who did injections brought us all off track worse than we would have been. All right. So people who are good people who did injections for the wrong reasons, please don't make yourself feel worse about it. But yeah, you definitely dragged humanity down by doing that. And then there are very many people who never even have the capacity to consider how badly they dragged humanity down by what they're doing. And they are not good people. And then there are people that are like, hooray, I dragged humanity down. I destroyed the ascension timeline. I'm doing a good job. Like there are people that are profound evil that are like that. And of course, that's a no-brainer. Like those are losers. They would never be in my world. But how about the people that are just too ignorant to know that they shouldn't do this during ascension? And they mess things up badly and they're too ignorant to even know. And then some people that are like, I knew I shouldn't have done it, but I did it anyway. It's a whole own level of difficulty because people need to take personal responsibility. And how can we trust you in a telepathic society if you're like, yep, I know I shouldn't do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. Like that's the essence of drug addiction. When people are like anything, smoking tobacco or whatever it is, they're like, I know I shouldn't do this. Why am I doing it? We can't have those people in our world. There used to be a world where it would be like, go follow your folly, like do your stupid stuff, do it over there far away from me. Now we are going to go into levels of hyperconnectivity where you can't have people doing stupid stuff like that and have them be hyper connected to you. It's going to be unbearably uncomfortable. So just to tell you from my experience, because I am very telepathic and empathic, and I'm already connected to the world. When everybody started to do those silly subcutaneous proboscis in the past 5 years, when that started, it made me so miserable because I could feel the change in the psychic texture of all these different minds that it was torture, torture that people would do that to themselves and that their minds would become so corrupted and that our whole entire world would become so polluted and that it would all become amplified, like turn up the music on the very worst singers. All of that. It's been terrible. It's been a horrific 5 years. And I really do look forward to the time when we'll be resolved from this. And also, I will never allow anything like this to happen ever again. So a lot of the resolution of this includes the prevention from any future negative time cycles, like finish this all up now. Do not sweep anything under the cosmic carpet. Conclude everything now. We will not be going through this again. Okay. So on that note, it's kind of a downer to end on because you can tell that I'm really mad and very inflamed by this. I know. Let's read a nice comment and maybe we'll end on something good. Kim Rose says, masterful professor, this class was epic. Thank you, Kim. It says, much love and gratitude to you and Cheeky, gonna go forth thinking like a butterfly, not a caterpillar. Good for you. And please do so. And thank you for the beautiful praise. And thank you for loving Cheeky. We're going to take good care of her too. And please do. Being a butterfly, to end on something more positive, is when you're able to sit in your lawn chair and fly with your mind from flower to flower, like to be free in your mind. So of the past 5 years, the things that have been so painful have been not only for me, but considering other consciousnesses, how little mental freedom that you have had. Not only like you can't think your own thoughts, but you really can't do a lot of interdimensional travel. We need to get that back. We need to get all of that back. It's an innate part of who you are. It's like being a wild animal, like a horse or, whatever, a bird. Like you have to be free. You are defined by your freedom. A fish in the ocean have to be defined by your freedom. So we have to restore those levels of freedom. Okay, Mary Ellen says, have a good night. Thank you very much. So have a beautiful night, everyone. Thank you. Thank you to everyone who's in this class. Lisa says, thanks. I'm so grateful for you and Cheeky. You're so welcome. Let's end on Cheeky over here. Look, sleeping on her toy, being great. And excited, continued encouragement and invitation to everyone. Come be a part of my New Year's Eve retreat that is coming up at the end of this year. We have a lot to get through before the end of the year. So just strap yourselves in. It's going to be a roller coaster. Okay. Have a beautiful night, everyone. Thank you so much. Much love to you. Thank you.